Hello, Hidden Pearls Podcast fans. Stop. Okay. Hello, Hidden Pearls Podcast fans, friends, and family. We are back with another episode, and right now we are currently en route to Las Vegas. By the time you're hearing this, we'll already be in Las Vegas, but getting ready for this new year 2023 game. So just ringing in the game with some football. What else? How else would you expect us to do that? But we'll be at the game. Super excited to be in Allegiant Stadium. This week, we have an exciting interview with Bruno Moya, who is the program coordinator in Las Vegas for MVP. And I just, as you're going to hear, I freaking loved this episode because we really go into the psychology behind healing and how opening up your heart to the things that you may have done or the experiences that you have can really help you to own them and, you know, kind of process and heal through your trauma. So he takes us through his military career, his deployment to Iraq, being enlisted in 9/11, and just the whole process. Talks a lot about fatherhood and his relationship with his own dad. You know, Bruce and I really duke it out in this episode. Just kidding. But just understanding how our family can form us and being really compassionate in that. And so he's doing a lot of really incredible work in Las Vegas. So if you were in that area, I highly encourage you to check that out. Obviously, you should join Emerging Vets and Players because it's great. And it's an amazing community. So we also have young George on for a little bit, and it's just great to see his cute smiling face, his little man bun, and just to celebrate the incredible season and games that he's been having. So our hearts are totally busted open by all of that. And we're pretty much up in the stands crying every time he scores. So just know that, I mean, it is a celebration, but it's also just, it's just so fun watching that kid play. So for all of you who have been along for this entire season, we just want to say thank you. Happy New Year's, happy holidays, and let's get right into the episode.
Breaker 19er. Thank you for boarding the aircraft today. We are gonna be up 15,000 feet, hit the Wi-Fi for you guys. It's gonna be a nice, easy 2-hour flight to Nashville, Tennessee. Get some drinks in you. Let's go party.
Bam!
Action.
All right, here we are. Hidden Pearls fans. Emma Kittle. Bruce Kittle, George Kittle. We are here, week 17. Niners are heading up to the Raiders. We are excited to have George Kittle back with us. And pretty darn exciting time right now, George. How's everything in the old office building? And welcome to Hidden Pearls Podcast again. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, sorry for being on a little bit of a hiatus. I was actually taking a sabbatical. That's why I've been unavailable. Sorry, I've just been completely no phone, no nothing. Been out in the woods hanging out by myself. So. Yes. You guys haven't seen much of me. Sorry.
Rumor has it that you were on a safari.
Yeah, I know. I was actually helping endangered animals. So that's what I was doing.
Okay. Well, good.
I'm back though.
You're back. All right. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about last week, shall we? Just for a moment.
The locker room was wonderful. Oh, hi, Deanie.
Oh,
yeah, you asked me about that. Sorry. Locker room, it's great. The building's awesome. Great vibes. People are excited to come to work. We had another great day of practice. The guys are excited. I mean, it's fun. You know, there's opportunity ahead of us. If someone slips up, you can steal a 2 seed.
Bam.
Someone else slips up. There's a scenario where we can get a 1 seed. So why not win the next 2 games? And I'm so sorry, Deanie. She's like, Dad, you're gonna win the next 2 games. I know. High five.
She wants a treat.
Do you want something? Okay, but we're feeling good.
All right. Locker room's good. So last week beat the Commanders. Week before that beat Seattle on the road up there at our good friends. Yes. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. Come on. Someone's got to take a little.
Anyone ask?
Go. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I personally want to throw it all the way back to Mexico because we haven't had you on since the Mexico game. And I will say these last 2 games, they're any game that you're scoring 2 touchdowns, it's like the best game ever. However, I think truthfully, the Mexico City game was like one of my favorite games in the entire, since you've been playing football. Yeah. In my career as a football sister, it's definitely, that was up there for me. So could we maybe take it back there? And what was your Mexico City experience like?
Just click the rewind button.
Well, I want to go back there anyway.
Oh,
because what happened in that game?
that was a fun game.
Fun game, big win, like a home game.
It was.
And we had 2 tutties, and we're going to come back to the 2 tutty theme here in a minute. But go ahead. How was Mexico City for you?
I mean, it was phenomenal, the whole experience. It was really fun. The fans were insane. The energy was crazy. The stadium was so full when we just went out for warm-ups, and like it was so funny because like the fans were so loud. You basically had to go down this long walkway to get from the locker room to the field. You just walked right in between an entire section of fans, and they're just screaming at you, so excited for football. So that was a really cool experience. I honestly, like, my 2, besides winning and having 2 touchdowns, those are both really fun things. I think my favorite part of that game was the national anthem. The Mexican national anthem was insane. The entire stadium, like the singer, I didn't hear a single word that she said because the stadium was singing so loud. And it was so clear too. Like they were perfectly in sync and harmony. So that was an unreal moment. And then when they shut off all the lights, like randomly through the 4th quarter, and they played Thunderstruck, that was some cool stuff. That was some really cool stuff. So overall experience in Mexico City, the fans were amazing. The experience was wonderful. I hope that I get another shot to play there again at some point in my career, because it was everything I could have dreamt for.
Any comments on the altitude?
I was definitely a little tired, but we spent the entire week in Colorado training at the Air Force Academy, up in the cold. It was so cold, and the field was frozen. It was hilarious.
And the indoor wasn't really heated.
No, it was not heated. It was cold. And then literally like the day that we left, it got up in the 50s. Hilarious.
Okay, let's talk about the game then. Commanders last weekend. Bam, bam, bam. Commanders came all the way across the country, and we put a whooping on them. That was pretty fun. So let's see. Offensively, so 37-20 win. We're already Western Division champs. That is super cool. 371 yards, 51 plays, 218 pass, 159 on 26 rushes, 71 of those on the Ray sweep. What'd you think of that? So talk to us a little bit. That was such a cool play, and I've watched it on tape about 20,000 times already because it was so fun. But you and CMC kind of on the combo.
Yes.
Which often is you and Juice.
Yes.
But on this, CMC was the lead, and Ray was in the backside coming, and really nice job by everybody. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the name of the play and how to go down?
The play's called Dead Cat.
Dead Cat?
Yeah, 30. I think it's 38 Dead Cat. It used to be there's a version of it called Dead Pool. It's just like a dead family, so they just say different things, and then the cat actually is part of the play call and tells our receivers to block something different.
It's not a kitty.
It's not like an actual cat. A cat block is blocking it's a different kind of block. Anyways, I'm not going to give you all of our secrets, but so basically,
how many plays do you have named after cats?
Bobcat is another one.
So like,
and then, but like you can add like Zorro Cat. Like cat is just an addition to a play call.
It tells the wide receivers how to structure their blocks on the outside edge.
It tells the receivers to block person A, and then that tells me that I'm going to go block person B.
Which is different than how it normally is. So it kind of switches things up.
Yes.
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So like
anyway,
if we ran normal Zorro, me and Juice would be working from the edge player to the safety. But then when we call Zorro Cat, our receiver is going to block the safety, and we're going to take the end to the corner.
Got it?
Got it.
Cool.
Okay, we'll get a whiteboard out later. Anyway.
She has one right behind her. See if you can draw that.
No, that's good. We got other stuff to cover. Okay, so you get out.
So my whole point of that play is to attack the outside shoulder of the edge player and try to get him to widen because he has contain. And if I can get him to panic, he'll widen on himself all the way out to the numbers. And then Christian is there just to clean it up to make sure he doesn't jump back inside. So that's where you guys saw I was outside, pushed him off, and then Christian just comes up and hops right on his hip and pushes him outside. Corner filled outside. So that's why I went and I left the defensive end. I catch the corner. They're out of the play. They're outside the numbers, and Ray is a straight shot right down. McGlinchey had a nice pancake on that play.
And then who's the receiver that was
Willie Snead, our vet. What a man!
Wow,
monster.
That was a monster block. He held that forever.
He held the safety on that. He made the play. He picked another guy, ran all the way down the field for celebrating the end zone. 71 yards is a long way to go. I was late to that celebration, probably. It's a long way.
I thought the one guy was going to catch for me. But on that block with you and
Montez
CMC.
Sweat hit 20 miles an hour on that play.
Yeah, I thought he was going to. But if the corner hops inside, then you're supposed to push it out, and then CMC would go
Then
up.
Christian will punch the hip, and he inserts inside, blocks the corner.
It is a beautiful, that combo when it's on fire, which you and Juice do all the time.
Me and Juice are very good at it.
Yeah, really good at it.
Spirit Bros.
It's also different. Yeah, so that's a part of his Spirit Bros. A lot of different ways to run it.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So anyway, that was super fun. Really jump-started the offense, got the scoring going because we were doing stuff, but it was a little bit of a struggle right then. And give Washington some credit. I mean, that's a pretty solid little defense. They got some thick dudes up front.
You say a little defense. Those are the biggest D linemen we played all year besides the Saints.
Right.
They were.
How was it for Trent Williams? Did he say anything about that game? I mean, we were hearing a lot of stuff on the radio, just, kind of bringing up his documentary and playing there. And did he ever say anything? He seems pretty stoic when it comes to those things.
No, I mean, he didn't mention, I wasn't a part of a conversation with, he didn't mention it in a pregame speech or anything like that. No, I know, I know from a fact, you can see it in his documentary, which we'll put a link to just for you, Trent Williams, if you come on the show.
TW.
It will get him though. But, I think everyone now knows the history of it, but he wasn't saying this was an extra motivation for him. I think Trent Williams is just a dog every single Sunday. Best of the best.
Plus, he's on a chance to fight on a team with the NFC on the line, and the NFC Championship leads to a Super Bowl, and who doesn't want to win a Super Bowl? So those are the things. Okay, Purdy. It's awfully Purdy out here.
The California weather is Purdy compared to Iowa.
Brocking around the clock. Something. Anyway, okay. Now, a couple stats, fun stats. He's got a couple. The only one I wrote down, Purdy's only the second quarterback in his first 3 starts in NFL history to have at least 2 touchdowns and 100-plus passer rating in their first 3 games. And guess who is the only other one?
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino.
Did you also know that Purdy's number 13 because he wanted to be like Dan Marino?
I do know that. It's a super cool story. There's a whole story about his dad was a massive Dolphins fan. And so Purdy's always worn 13 because he loves Dan Marino and his dad did. And that's the tradition he was growing up in. And now he shares that record with that other quarterback.
It's pretty cool.
That is really super
That's
cool.
so cool.
Now, I just want to turn it. And I know, George, this is not your thing, but being your dad, and Emma was demanding these stats.
Yeah.
So in the Commanders game, 120 yards, 6 for 8, 2 TDs. It's your third game with 2 TDs, Mexico City, Seattle, and Washington. Now you've had two touchdown games back-to-back in Seattle, Washington. So now I just want to ask listeners, and Emma, you might know this because it's in the script. But anyway, the all-time record for the most 2 TD games in a season, you guys, I shouldn't have put it in the script because now you know. Randy Moss with 8. So listeners out there, so that's pretty cool. Now, who has the most 2 touchdown games in their entire career? And guess how many they are?
Receiving.
Receiving.
It's not Jerry Rice.
Is that your guess?
I'd guess Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. And how many do you think?
In his career?
Long career.
He played what, 27,000 years?
Something like that.
I'm going to go with, he had 73.
Oh, okay. Emmy?
73 2 touchdown games. I'm going to go with 35.
Okay. It is Jerry Rice. And the actual number of 2 touchdown games in his career is 44. So pretty cool.
Yeah. High expectations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We'll have to talk to Jerry about that. Okay. Anyway, that was pretty good. And week before that, you hit the 5,000 yard mark, 4th fastest tight end to reach 5,000 yards. That was pretty cool. We're very excited and happy about that.
Thank you.
Congratulations, brother.
And receiver to have multiple TD games back-to-back since Big T.O., who looks like he's making a comeback. Is that for real? We don't know. Anyway, we'll see. But anyway, that was back in 2002, the last time T.O. had touchdowns back-to-back or in any Niner receiver. So that was pretty cool. It's good to have you back.
Have I been somewhere?
Well, it's
From the show.
It's fun as your family to.
Are you talking on a football field or on the
Damn
field?
right, man. Get in that damn end zone.
From the show and from targets. Actually, George, after the you were there for that, but after the the Seattle game, I made sure to tell Kyle that I've been loving his game plans and that he should keep throwing it to you. And I think I totally he like looked at me like I was crazy for saying that, but his wife left. So I was like, I think I'm okay.
She'll laugh at anything if we're standing with Claire. But anyway, okay. Now O-line. All right, O-line. Overall, we had 3 sacks in the last game, but they've been playing pretty well, and we were able to get some run game going. So that's pretty good. And again, we thought that was a pretty good defense. Some really big boys up there that play very physical kind of game.
Their interior was very good.
Yep. So, and that's a challenge for guard, center, guard up there in that stack. So that's all pretty good. And the great stat, and I'm just going to throw this out. What's our record, George?
12-4.
11-4.
11-4.
You're about to play your 16th game.
Sure. Quick math.
Okay. So we only had 1 turnover, and that was the tip ball that was kind of juggled and went up in the air and anyway caught. So, but Washington had 2, and the Niners this year are 12-0 when we win or tie the turnover ratio in a game. So we did it again. So we were plus 1 in this one, which is great.
Wait,
super
wait a sec.
What?
How are we 12-0?
11-1
when we win turnovers? And we're 11-4. That's why I said 12, because you had 12 on the script.
Okay. I changed it later because I had to go back and change everything because I had to say 12 already. He's reading the script, damn it. I always give him a hard time for not reading the script. Okay, that was pretty fun. All right, what do you think about our defense?
Set me up for failure there, dog.
I did. I own that completely.
Teamwork.
Bam. Okay.
Accountability.
Defense, still number 1 ranked.
Still the best.
Rushing yards, points scored.
Continue to be the best.
Yada, yada, yada.
Fourth down stops on the goal line.
That was unbelievable.
No one wants to play the Niners defense.
Okay.
That Niners offense.
How about that drive? 17 play drive, like 88 yards, took over 10 minutes all the way down there, and they get to the frickin' inside the 1 yard line. And what did they come away with? Embarrassment and shame. It's awful. I'm sorry, fellas. That's
a hell of a drive to not get any points.
And think, you guys, the defense, they play that whole time and they're got to be gassed and tired, and we couldn't muscle that in. Sorry, guys. Okay. How about our boy, Nicky B? And are we talking defensive player of the year?
I'm talking MVP.
Bam. Defensive player of the year. MVP. Bam. Like, what quarterback's out there that's really...
Patrick Mahomes.
Come on. Let's do something different.
I would say, if you're going quarterback, if it's not Nick Bosa or Justin Jefferson, I don't think you're watching football.
Damn, I think that's really true. Jefferson has been amazing for the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson has just been playing so awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool to watch.
Super, super cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we like our little bear, Nick, and so be glad he's a Niner.
Dude, and Justin Jefferson is only 200 yards away from their all-time receiving record.
Oh,
200 yards in 2 games.
I think that's pretty cool.
He could do that. He averages $110 a game minimum.
Yeah. You know who's almost ready to set a record that we're going to play this weekend? We'll get to them. I didn't have this in the script, but Jacobs and
Josh Jacobs.
Yep, and
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, thank you. Both of them with a couple hundred yards each can finish the season with 1,500 yards rushing and 15 yards receiving. And that's only happened 6 other times on a team.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. So, but we're not going to let that happen. So sorry. Okay.
Not against us.
That's the one we got. And I just want to say this too. Nicky didn't get credit for the 1 sack on the extra point play, which we're going to count as
2-point conversion.
2-point conversion. So there were 2 sacks, but there's really 3 sacks, but they're not counting that one because it's not a play from scrimmage, apparently. So anyway,
those touchdowns, those interceptions don't count.
And I want to give a shout out too to our special teams, especially our kickoff coverage.
Hey, George Odom. George Odom had 5 tackles. He went out there. He had every single tackle on kickoff. He had them all.
So we've been doing
is balling.
Yeah, and Rob is doing a great job. We're getting better on the hang time. We're trying to set that ball right on the
2 yard line,
2 yard line, 2 or 3rd yard line,
the 2nd yard line,
2nd yard line. I don't know. Anyway, and then we're getting that tackles inside the 20. We had all those in Seattle. They did a great job. So
anytime when our defense starts the ball inside the 20, it's awesome. As an offense, when you start the ball inside the 20, it's just an extra I wish it would have been a touchback because at least we would have been at the 25. But when we have tackles inside the 20, all it does is if you see our sideline, the whole defense loves it. And they all have this energy as they run onto the field. And they bring that anytime there's a tackle inside the 20, they bring the energy every time, but it gives them an extra reason.
A little extra, yeah.
You don't need to give them any extra reason.
Yeah, but that's Throwing a little shark bait out in the water. I like it.
That's good team football right there.
Okay. All right, Em, we've been just jamming here for Football Leash. Anything you want to add on insightful women's perspective while we're here?
Not necessarily. Dane's right here. He says, hi, George. I will show you guys this, though. This is the toy that George got Dane for Christmas, and it's the cutest little seahorse ever. So he's been carrying it around. Of the 3 games that you've now had 2 touchdowns, did any one of them feel the best?
Favorite touchdown or favorite game?
Favorite game.
Oh, my favorite game? Oh, wow. I mean, Mexico City was just like the coolest experience ever. Like, it was one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been. It was crazy. Like, clinching in Seattle, super dope, especially both touchdowns. They were awesome. But like, there's a difference between scoring at like visiting stadiums when like it goes silent and like you hear the Niners fans, but like it goes silent. And there's some part of that that you absolutely love. But then in Mexico City, when you had however many 70 to 108, 90,000, whatever it was, 80 something thousand, 86,000 people screaming. And like out of the 86,000, 82,000 of them were Niners fans. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that was my favorite.
My favorite tutty. You've been hitting the left sideline, cutting back to the right. Mm-hmm. The one in Seattle, was that I can't remember if that was the first or second TD.
Second one.
Second one. Those dudes missed. That was super.
Aim a slippery.
And the
I also like the second one in the Commanders game.
Yeah,
that was really fun.
That was a really fun touchdown.
That was a really fun touchdown.
I go fast.
That Mike Backer was like, he looked like he was pulling a chain. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk where we're at. Anyway, Niners have clinched the West and are guaranteed at least the 3rd seed. And like, as George said, so we're hoping we're watching the Vikings to trip up this week. They play the Packers, so we're
in
Green Bay. So we're rooting for the Packers on that one.
Go Pack go.
So we're seeing if we can get that, because if we're tied, it goes to the Niners. So that's good. So we bump to the 2nd seed and have an opportunity for 2 games at home. So that would be terrific. So the rest, Seattle 7-8. They host the Jets. Not eliminated, so they're in the fight with a bunch of other 7 and 8s for potential, but the Rams and Cards are out of it, dog. See ya. Okay, perfect. Rams play the Chargers, Cards play the Falcons, but you know what's even better? No one cares. All right, see ya. All right, last week in the NFL, NFC leaders in the East, Philly and the Cowboys have clinched a playoff berth, but the Philadelphia Eagles with the loss did not clinch the East. Cowboys have a chance if they stumble. So there you go. Those two are fighting it out. And the Giants are still in it, and even Washington is still in it. So who knows what's going to happen over there? Okay, North, Vikings, they have clinched the title in the North like the Niners have in the West. 12-3. They are currently the 2nd seed, but they're at the Packers. Okay, and we're hoping for the best there. Detroit, 7-8, hosts the Bears. So we're going to see what happens with that. And then Packers, 7-8, they are hosting those, we said the Vikings. Okay, then in the South, no one really cares. It's a pathetic example. It's sad. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still leading the South. They host the Panthers. They're 7-8. And then Carolina and New Orleans. I'm kind of thinking New Orleans is coming back on this.
I mean, they've won like 2 of the last 3.
So they're both playing good. And Tampa Bay's got to play both of those on the way out. So we'll see how that goes. So who knows what's going to happen on the South. And that'll be the 7th seed. Nobody cares. All right. But somebody's got to play them. All right, AFC, we'll just go quick. In the East, the Bills have clinched the Eastern. So they're 12-3. They're at Cincinnati. That's, I think, Monday Night Football. So that's going to be quite a deal. Bills are favored by 1.5. Miami, 8-7 at the Pats. Pats by 3. Miami's playing for their playoff life, so they got to keep winning. In the West, Kansas City has also clinched that division. 12-3. They host the mighty Denver Broncos at 4-11. Chargers, they've clinched a playoff berth, 9-6. And actually, that was a pretty good team. I just kind of remember when we played them, they came up and visited us.
They had a lot of injuries that week.
They did. And so, but they're playing well and on the road.
They clinched.
Yep. So they are hosting the Rams. So they're going to put I think. But anyway, North, Cincy, they've clinched the playoff berth, 11-4. They got the Bills, like we said. Ravens, they've also clinched the berth, 10-5. And so that's going to be up for grabs until the end. They host Pittsburgh, 7-8, which has been winning. So that's pretty good. They just beat who last week?
Raiders. You're not doing it right.
Okay, do it. We're trying to do it.
No, but like you're going Raider. It's her.
It's a little more piratey.
Okay. In the South, what about the Jacksonville Jaguars?
CJ Beathard.
CJ Beathard closing it out. All right, so they're
the heart and soul of that team right there, CJ Beathard.
He is. Anyway, they're playing pretty good. They're at the Texans. They ought to get that one to get to 8-8, and they could cruise in and sneak in. All right, all good. All right, George, let's talk about the Raiders.
The who?
Raiders. Okay. All right. Let's see. We had an extra day this week.
We did. We played on Saturday, so we had an extra day of recovery. That's huge. It was awesome getting 2 full days off, being able to get a good lift in. So a lot of great recovery. Bodies are feeling great in the Niners building. Let's see. Raiders did just lose on Monday Night Football, so they're on a little bit of a shorter week. They have some stuff going on in the building.
They just benched Derek Carr.
Yes, they did.
And he's put him on the blocks for a trade.
They have. I heard he's not dressing. So
he left the building. I mean, he's out.
So that's super tough. Fan Derek Carr plays the game the right way. Awesome.
He looks like Thomas Rhett. Don't you think so?
Sure. Yeah, I see that. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Nice connection. But
well, hey, I just want to give a shout out because I appreciate you saying that about Carr. I just thought what he went through last year.
Yeah.
You know, with the whole Gruden thing and all the other things that happened and all that.
And still made it to the playoffs.
And he still got him to the playoffs.
Almost beat the Bengals too.
And I just, you know, I think he's really, you know, he's always showed up. He's always played hard. It hasn't been perfect. And, you know, the different years he's been there, I think he's been there like 9 years. You know, they've kind of float, you know, sometimes good talent, sometimes it's been a struggle, but
he's played at a pretty high level the entire time.
He really has. So anyway, our shout out to him and just wish him the very best wherever he ends up. And I think he'll be a hot commodity because there's a lot of people looking for a quarterback. Okay. Let's see. Raiders also.
Jared Stidham.
Huh?
Right? He's their next guy.
Yes, he is.
What do you want to say about that, Em?
Dad, we sat with them at a wedding that one time. You remember?
Right, I remember.
Oh my gosh, you guys did.
And they just had a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see how that goes. His moment for prime time is upon him.
This is a game for him.
And opportunity to see Nick Bosa up close.
And Fred Warner.
And
Eric Armstead.
Wow. Who I think is not getting quite enough credit.
No, he's playing really well. And our guy Mooney.
Yeah.
Travarius Ward, number 7 on the edge.
Yeah. And you know, folks, if you're not thinking about it, Eric Armstead, when he's playing a 3 technique, he draws, they either got to slide to him and then leave the other guy if they're playing Nick away, or if they put them both on the same side, they got to slide to him, and then we can blitz off the other edge. I mean, there's so many mismatches there that we're being able to play with because those two are playing at such a high level.
You can't leave Armstead and Nick Bosa on one-on-ones each.
Yeah.
You got to double both of them.
Because they're letting it loose. So
it's tough.
Okay. All right. Then your buddy, Max Crosby with them.
Fantastic football player. He's definitely one of the biggest guys in our scouting report this week. He's playing at an incredibly high level. The effort he plays with, he's only missed like 20 defensive snaps the entire season. That's unheard of for defensive end. You can tell he loves the game. I love playing against guys that you can just you can tell how much they love it just by watching silent tape. My dad always taught me, this guy right here, that the eye in the sky doesn't lie. That's the camera that watches how you are every single day in practice and how you are on every Sunday for games. And that's what everybody watches, whether it's your team or whether it's the other 31 teams that are watching that silent tape. They can feel energy. He's a guy that you can feel that energy off of. So looking forward to competing against him. It's going to be really fun. I love Las Vegas Stadium. We had the Pro Bowl there this past year.
Right.
It's a beautiful stadium. It's grass field. It does feel like you're a gladiator because it's just such a tall, massive building. So looking forward to this. I'm really excited. This is going to be a really, really fun game. New Year's Day, Las Vegas. Raiders, Niners.
And that stadium's going to be rocking.
And the Niners faithful they're in force.
Yeah. It's like a
wave. Team.
Tsunami. It's a red tsunami coming from the west.
I saw.
I'm wearing all red.
This is funny.
I'm getting face paint.
You do you, dog.
I'm going to get face paint.
Dad, do you think they make the Raiders like spiky shoulder pads? Do you think they make them in Niners colors?
They 100% do.
For sure.
You get those, Dad.
Let's spike up.
Let's see.
Okay.
I will. Trying to think.
Face paint with the Warriors.
Yeah, you're gonna look good, dude. You're gonna look good.
Okay.
Let's see.
Well, you're thinking. So Max, last week he had 2 tackles, no sacks, but he's 11.5 sacks on the year. So he's been an impact. And same thing for them. People slide to him and do a lot of that. He gets a lot of attention. So
He gets a lot of attention.
but he plays whistle to whistle, down after down, plays super hard.
He does.
Super. Okay.
Okay, college bowls and playoffs.
Oh, and your buddy Darren's back.
Yes, tight ends. Love tight ends, and I love the action.
All right. And they're running back Jacobs, so we're all good.
Josh Jacobs, nice guy.
Nice guy. Okay.
College football is here. The playoffs are upon us. Dad, who's going to win between Michigan and TCU?
I'm picking Michigan on that one.
Who is going to win between Ohio State and Georgia?
I've got to go with Georgia on that. Although
Who's going to win between Georgia and Michigan?
I'm going with Big Blue just because Rich Eisen is one of my favorite people, and I'm going with that.
That's a very, very good answer. Emma, who is going to win Michigan versus TCU?
Michigan.
Who is going to win Ohio State versus Georgia?
Ohio State.
Bam.
Oh, wow. Charlie's going to hate you.
Cheryl
Who's gonna win
Bosa.
between
I had to
Ohio
go,
State-
man.
Who's going to win between Ohio State and Michigan?
And Michigan beat Ohio State 2 times in 1 year.
I kind of want to say Michigan.
Okay, you guys have both.
Mostly for Eric and Kenzie.
Yeah, so this is
Magnuson's.
Michigan's going to beat TCU, Georgia's going to beat Ohio State, and then Georgia's going to beat the brakes off of Michigan, just like they did last year. It's going to happen again. All right,
We're going to see.
good talk.
Then I just
Motor City Bowl,
I just threw it in.
Nashville, Tennessee. The Kentucky Wildcats are driving down to Nashville while the University of Iowa Hawkeyes are flying in icy runways, practicing in the cold, getting down and dirty in the land of Nashville, Tennessee.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, the Hawks are picked by their 2.5 point favorites. What are we thinking about this? I don't know anything about Kentucky, but we do know who the head coach is, which is Emma,
Of Kentucky.
Yeah, you know him.
friend of the family.
He's a Stoops.
Stoops. Good job. Yes, youngest Stoops brother, Mark Stoops,
Mark.
another Iowa Hawkeye alum. He's been there. Gosh, he's been there a long time now. So they are also 7-5. Both have had that kind of year, but anyway, they made it to a bowl game in the Motor City Bowl,
Yeah, they did.
and it's supposed to be 50 and
Would you
rain.
rather play there or in the Pinstripe Bowl in New York Yankee Stadium?
I think New York. At least it's cold. You don't have any expectations. It's going to be nice.
Did you see the game that Iowa played there?
Yeah, it's freezing.
No. Do you remember it was in 2007? It was the 2017 season. There was an inch and a half of ice. They couldn't wear cleats because it was so slippery.
Right. It's
You'd rather play there than in Nashville where it's going to be like 50 degrees.
Yes, yeah.
No, I'm
If
waiting.
it's raining and cold, golly, that's awful.
Okay, that's just
Okay.
real. Bruce does not think that. He's just trying to be a hardo right now.
Oh no. Okay. And what do we think about expanding the playoffs from 4 teams up? George, that's the hot question because they're talking about it's supposed to happen within the next 2 years.
I mean, I don't really like it. I mean, now, okay, let's just be real. They're expanding it to give more teams an opportunity to win.
Well, why shouldn't all the Power Fives have their champion in the playoffs? I mean, why isn't the Pac-12 is not there?
Sure.
I mean,
Okay.
So they lost-
So you might be expanding it a little bit, but like at the end of the day, I mean, they're going to expand it to what, like 12 teams, something like that? Like they're going to open it up. Yeah, it's like 10 to 12 teams, something like that. And it's just like at that point, you're going to make all these college kids play an extra 3 or 4 games.
I was thinking 8. Just add one more round and then
No,
get the-
and
the Power
okay.
Fives.
Anyways, but you have all these kids that are going to play like 2 to 4 more games. Most of them are not getting paid for it. And all it is it's just, I mean, come on, it's a money grab. It's all it is. More college football means more money, which is, it is what it is. That's just kind of TV rights, and that's the life we're living right now. But I mean, yes, it's awesome. You have better opportunity to go there, but I don't know. It seems like a lot of, and I know college, like the health and recovery isn't the same way as in the NFL, how teams focus on us and stuff. I mean, some teams might, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like I like the BCS stuff, but then you wouldn't have had number 4 seed Ohio State win it with Ezekiel Elliott the first year of the college football playoffs. And so it takes away stuff like that. I think the extra games are going to be tough, but I mean, like if you expanded it to like 6 to 8 teams and it only adds 1 game, sure. I mean, I'll watch.
We could have a bye on each side and then 3 games, just like we kind of do in the NFL. But okay, I think that's a good point though, because now they're all playing 12 games plus they're playing a conference championship plus then they go playoffs.
Yes. I mean, like a college kid having a 16-game season.
That's tough.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Shoes, food, wine, movies, Deanie.
I mean, at that point, it's like that's yeah. I mean, that's crazy. It's a lot of football for 18 to 21-year-olds.
Yeah. Now that you're saying it, I'm kind of.
It's a lot.
Yeah, 2 games is plenty.
I mean, I think if you ask any rookie, they're going to be like, because there's a rookie wall in the NFL. Like you get to week 10, you're like,
what the hell?
If we're in the playoff, like the season's not even halfway over yet. If you're a playoff team, 10 weeks in, and that's not even including the 4 weeks of training camp. So you're like 14 weeks in and you have 14 weeks left. That's a long time in college. Let's just be honest. It's a long time.
What do you think of that season, Em?
Also, and they were dealing with school. You had to do homework. Oh, I did my homework. I was good in school. Come on. But still, it's hard. You're an all academic Big Ten guy.
No.
You're on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know.
For 1 year.
I don't know why, because I don't know which year it would have been. That was it.
4 time.
Okay, Emma, you get to pick this topic for George. Shoes, food, wine, movies, Deanie, or other events.
I'm on shoes and food.
Okay. And the question is?
What were the favorite shoe, or what type of shoes did you wear to the Niners holiday party? And did you get or give any shoes that were your favorite this year, and what were they?
For Christmas?
For anything?
Holidays.
Christmas? Yeah, holidays.
Christmas, sure.
I wore Adidas Grinches. So they're green and furry and fuzzy with little Grinch trinkets on them. So it's very Christmassy.
Trinkets.
Yeah, trinkets. So
and then a red and white plaid suit.
And yes, and they kind of, not a plaid, but like had a fun design on it, red and white. And I wore our division champ shirt underneath it because not a huge fan of button-ups and ties. I'm a big t-shirt guy. As you can tell, Shawn Michaels matching hairstyle right now. The Heartbreak Kid. But so that was fun. My favorite pair of shoes. Wow. This year, I think one of my top shoes I got this year would be, I got the Chunky Dunks, which is like the cowhide Ben and Jerry's style dunks. I've been wanting those for a long time. So it was really fun to locate and find those. I wear them all the time. They're one of my favorite shoes. That, or I just got the all black Travis Scott Jordan Lows. They got delivered today to the locker room.
Ooh.
Those are sick. Super cool. Was considering wearing those in Vegas. But we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. So you haven't made a shoe decision for Vegas yet?
No, Claire hasn't made a shoe. No, I'm kidding. No, I haven't made one yet. Depends if it goes with the shirt she got me for Christmas.
It's a very cool shirt.
Okay.
Emma, did you hear who is this?
Heartbreak Kid.
What's his full name though?
I missed it.
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels. Like
What do
Brett
you like
Michaels?
about Shawn?
He was one of the best entertainers to ever step in front of the ring. And he was an undersized guy compared to like The Rock and Stone Cold, but he brought it every time. He's known for sweet chin music, where he just super kick, plants his left leg, kicks his right leg out, full extension, catches you under the jaw, and you just go, sleep.
Huh.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right. And how long has he been out?
How long has he been retired?
Yeah.
Probably 10 years.
Okay.
I don't know. But he is, I can't remember what WrestleMania it was, but him versus The Undertaker at one of the WrestleManias in the 2000s was hailed as potentially the greatest match of WrestleMania history. And it's cool too, because he's in all white, The Undertaker's in all black.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of like light versus darkness. And it is it's a long fight, great storytelling. I've watched it multiple times. Undertaker wins, spoiler alert, but Shawn Michaels puts on one incredible performance.
Okay, what year was that?
Can't remember.
Okay.
2000s.
Have you ever seen him? You've never seen him. Have you ever met him, George?
I don't think I've met Shawn Michaels. No. My goal is I have 2 Shawn Michaels shirts. Like this is like 2001, maybe. I don't know the year, but it's like an old shirt. I have this one, and I have another one where it says the Heartbreak Kid all over it. It has like all these little hearts and him in the middle. And I would like him to sign one of them for me so I can frame it, because he's
very
so
cool.
Okay. We'll
I'm sure
put
he'll
that
be
out in the
listening
old
to this.
universe.
We'll put it out
we
there.
go.
All right.
Okay, food wise, what's your food right now?
Well, my favorite food is hibachi right now. After games,
That's all we eat.
after every game, it is hibachi, steak, chicken, veggies, fried rice, noodles.
We had a little shrimp action this time.
We did. Yeah. You know what? Let's just be real. Shrimp is good in small quantities. That's my take on shrimp. I'm not the shrimp flavor is a little overbearing to me if you eat a bunch of them or if they're like the main protein of a dish. It's very seafoody, and I don't know if that is always my favorite thing. I would I'm not the biggest shrimp guy. It's good.
And do you like the medium size, small, or what?
I'm good. Like they all taste good to me for like 3, but then I'm good to move on to something else. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of like when the entire dish tastes
all shrimpy.
Yeah, it's all shrimpy.
Okay.
They're not bad. They're just, I prefer other things.
Got it.
Bruce, do you have a favorite food right now? Favorite meal?
Favorite food? Well, yeah, kinda.
He's been eating bark off the trees in our backyard, and he finds some ants, rubs it together, and then he just.
That's true. A lot of protein in there. I like the two things I've been eating a lot of are bananas. So it's kind of that with a little bit of peanut butter, and then I'm not going to get bullied though. I refuse. And then
ants on a log.
Beans with tortillas.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like a good breakfast burrito.
So just kind of straight up. So I'm fairly simple human being. You, Em?
Well, speaking of that, we took Dane to the dog beach earlier today, and afterwards we went to Sancho's Tacos and got bean and cheese burritos, and they were like insane. But favorite thing I'm making right now are these immunity bombs. And so I juiced lemon, ginger, and turmeric. Yeah. And then I froze them. I bought these like silicone ice trays that are actually in the shape of little hearts. And then every morning I pop them out like a little cube and I pour hot water and put a little bit of local honey in it. And I'm like, I made you stayed with me for a week. I made them for you every day.
I know. I'm just like when I hear the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a detailed process, but honestly, I think that's why I felt like super healthy this entire season.
That's really cool. What's funny is the Niners have like 4 different versions of those shots every day for all the players.
That's awesome.
Always available.
I need a turmeric shot.
I should have been a 49er, but since I don't have access to that, I have to make my own.
I like that.
They're surprisingly easy. So if you're not feeling great and you need a little medicine, highly recommend that.
All right. Em, let's slip into, I've got mindfulness and our mindset stuff. So just talking about if we've had a mindfulness moment. And I guess I just want to also, if there's any kind of wellness, or maybe there's a recipe for wellness concept within that context, but maybe just a question out there. So have we had any time where, we've had kind of a moment where we did that whole process where we realize something's either triggered or going on or an event, and you're able to kind of step back and separate. So I just listened to a great podcast. I don't need to go through all the names of it and all that, but
you want to though, don't you?
Kind of, but it was a Navy SEAL dude and all that. But he was just talking about, and he's not a meditator at all, never meditated his whole life. But he talked about his number one superpower is the ability to step back, gain perspective, and separate himself from any events, which is simply being mindful. So
that is mindfulness, isn't it?
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting in that. So I guess I'll go first just quickly. So I'm trying to prepare. Em and I are working on a Olympic triathlon in the spring. And so we're working on that. So I've always kind of swam and biked, but I'm back to running, which is a bit of a challenge for me.
I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen you run other than like these last couple months.
Yeah.
No, been a while.
Well, it's kind of painful. Ananyway,
is it still really painful?
But now he's got those awesome glasses. I want a pair of those. I'm very jealous.
I have some cool glasses. Thank you.
No funny story about those glasses.
Okay.
Yeah. Bruce, pull the microphone off your neck.
I ordered a pair of those by accident to Nashville. So then I had to order another pair to San Jose because I couldn't figure out how to just change it to San Jose. And so there's a pair of glasses. Whoever they are there. So whoever gets there first gets them. What? Yeah.
All right. Well,
I won't be there until like June.
Yeah, I won't be.
You're not coming to Nashville until June?
Yeah, I'm going to Japan.
I think I'm going to Japan.
I'm going to Japan.
I think I am. Claire's really into it.
That makes me so happy. Honestly, Claire's
whatever Claire's into.
It's been like the last year of me being like, yeah, and when Claire comes. but she never actually says it back. You know what I mean? She's just kind of like looks at me and is like, but
Yeah,
then
for sure.
you know what not even that, like just kind of like, oh yeah, totally, like just being really nice. But like she's so good about not committing to anything. And then Kristen and Kyle have been talking about it and some other people. And the other day, Claire said something about, I can't wait to visit Emma in Japan. And my jaw literally dropped to the floor.
Claire Bear in Japan. We're going to have a Claire sighting.
The fashion is going to be incredible. Okay. Back to your mindfulness moment.
Really tall there.
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, so I'm trying to pull I'm keeping my David Goggins on.
Okay.
And that the reason that we try to get into painful situations is in order to, not only just kind of discover how we're going to respond, but I'm really, and I told you this the other night, George, that I think about mindfulness now in the sense, what's that movie, The Pacific Rim?
Pacific Rim.
With the giant
robots finding giant monsters. Two people are inside.
Two people are inside. Now I can't say there's two people inside, but now I'm looking at life as a sense that like I'm inside kind of driving and watching what the robot's doing. And even in times of discomfort, it's really like, okay, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to do? How am I feeling about it? How can I let it kind of flow through? So anyway, I think that's been really helpful for me in these workouts where it's kind of exchanges. Oh, I bet it's separation distance right there. The Huberman and
you said you were going to name the podcasts.
Oh yeah, Joko.
I got him. Jocko
Willenick. He's a Navy SEAL guy, but he's really big on all this.
He works out every day, like at 4 a.m.
Super leadership guy and all that stuff. Okay, Emma or George, any mindfulness moment you want to kind of share and or kind of mindset or mental prep? Yeah.
Emma, let's just say if you're retired and you work out at 4 a.m. every day, what do you do with the rest of your day? But you're done by 5:30.
He's not retired. He has 3 different businesses.
I know. I wasn't talking about him.
Oh, I thought you were. Okay.
I'm just saying in general.
I mean, did he talk about what time he went to sleep?
Yeah, he never mentioned 4 a.m. before. He said he's early, but he's more he talked kind of 5-ish range, but
it might be 5. I just always see his watch. It says like 5:38, and then things just completely covered in sweat. But yeah, I guess you could start at 5.
I don't know.
I'm just exaggerating.
Well, he kind of does that part. So he tries to get that workout in the morning. Then he does his businesses. And again, he doesn't do that stuff as much when he's on site doing stuff with companies. So he does a lot of work with that on leadership development teams and all that kind of piece. And then he tries to do jiu-jitsu in the afternoons. So that's kind of his structure.
That's really cool.
Does he have kids?
Yes. Can't remember. At least 2. Maybe there's more than that. And he's got they were talking about, so Huberman turns out to be a massive dog lover. Loves dogs.
As he should.
So they spent about 15 minutes talking about dogs and how they turned out to be like their owners, or owners turn out to be like their dogs.
Wait, this is a podcast with both of them on it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really good.
I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, it was like the last one. But anyway, Joko, am I saying that right?
I don't know if it's Jocko or Joko.
Okay, I think it's Joko. But anyway, they have a German Shepherd, and they were asking, well, has he turned into being like you? And they were like, well, what does that mean? Anyway, he said, yeah, with his kids, they'll all be kind of roughhouse and they want to play with the dog. So the dog, he'll get up, but he'll get on the bed and they'll say, it's okay, get him on up. And then he just sits there like this and they pet and hug him and nudge. And then as soon as they're done, then he goes, I guess the command is free up. And then he's back down because he's such a security focus. He's always right by the door in whatever room the family's in. And like, he doesn't like to snuggle. He doesn't play, doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. So I would say he's probably quite a bit like the old guy, the Navy SEAL.
That's what the dog does?
Totally.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He said, we've tried to get him to level up a little bit, but he
works.
He's a working dog and he is always on the clock. So, which I thought that was kind of cool.
That is super
And then
cool.
Huberman told the story about his big boxer who had absolutely brought no value whatsoever to the world except eating a lot, chewing every possible thing up. He said he's had to pay people back so much for the toys that they destroyed at the dog park. Like he'll run over and take a toy and it's gone in like 2 seconds because his jaw.
That is shocking to hear that's the type of dog he is.
Anyway, that dog passed on, so he's still kind of in recovery about that. But it was really interesting about just the connection people have with their dogs and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty fun. We might have to do a special puppy show or add an element here pretty soon. So, okay.
I mean, I'd love to. Wait, to answer George's question though, I think if I was retired and was training at 4 a.m., I mean, George, you talk all the time about how you just want to be a dad.
Sure. 100%. But you're going to have at least 5 minutes at some point in the day to do something. I don't know, like I'm all for getting your work done and stuff. That sounds really
pretty
brutal.
early.
I mean, that's what
Guys, it's 5:55. It's 5:55.
Oh,
Bam. Okay. Okay.
Why'd you just interrupt me again? I wasn't done talking. Bruce has been very interruptive today.
He's trying to, like,
And you know
rush
what? I
us
don't want to
through.
talk anymore. I'm done.
You guys went 5:55. I thought we were open. Okay. Any other mindfulness, mental?
My screen's frozen.
It is not frozen. You're frozen.
I think I would have to kind of reiterate that, Dad, because just after listening to Goggins' book, and shout out Adam Skolnick, I think it just I listen to it when I'm like doing hard things. So like when I'm on a longer run or when I'm biking or doing something. My bike, I just had it shipped out here, so it's built. So I'm picking it up tomorrow. The Specialized team put it together, but lately I've just been doing either like Tabata style or like trying to reach a certain amount of mileages in a certain amount of time on the assault bike. And it's like awful. So I'll put on David Goggins when I'm doing it. And I mean, even when I'm like, just my legs literally feel like they're about to fall off, he just blows my mind, the whole stories and everything. So I would just say, I think hearing that book and the way that he's so good at describing his pain and his struggles. And I think for me, it's helping to kind of compartmentalize, like, this is really like looking at it, like this is really painful now, but it's going to be less painful next week, and like just kind of looking at like my different layers of suck, or like how like dense my hurt locker is or wherever it is, but like getting more comfortable with that. Also, anytime I've been doing cold baths every morning. Yeah, our cold thing switched off today. So it was actually like a balmy 57, which was wonderful. So that was pretty nice, but we just set it to 40 degrees. So we're going to try to take it down a lot of notches.
It's cold. When I was visiting you, I'd sauna in the mornings and then hop in the cold tub. And
it's really cold. The metal tub is really uncomfortable. So
yep.
Yeah.
Well, on the Goggins thing, I did a Mindful Monday on this, but I'll just pop it out here. So in that quest, in the first part of the book, he talks about winning the second.
Yeah, I love that.
Like a second, as in time. And his whole point is it's in that 1 second that we give up on our dreams, or we make the decision that takes us away from our goals and all that kind of stuff. And if you can just repeatedly recognize that you're in that moment and just survive it. And his other big thing that goes along with that is never make a decision that's going to impact your life. Like when you're in that duress, if you're in your hurt locker, survive that moment of the hurt locker and then regroup later. And like, if you decide this is not for me, I really don't want to do it, but you're not doing it because your body's breaking down or your mind is leaving you and all that kind of shit. So here's the thing is just win that second and then just win the next second and then win the next one. And even if that's an hour later.
What if that's a lot of seconds?
It's a lot. It is a lot of seconds.
It's a lot of seconds.
It's hard.
So I'm not saying that's easy, but it's just a thing. But I thought that was a really kind of powerful thing as well. So, okay.
Bruce, have you gone through and you know how he talks about like, having that conversation with yourself about like, what's your life going to be like if you quit this project? Have you gone through and done that with anything?
Have I? Well, the two areas that for me is like, I'm trying to do 6-mile runs now all the time because that's the length for the Olympic tri, which was really a stretch for me. But now, I mean, I'm kind of able, I'm doing them. I'm not like killing, but around here too, it's so hilly. I don't really know how fast I am. Super fast. Kind of in the midst of that, I'm just thinking about, because I don't want to show up at that race. And I mean, I know I'm not winning or anything like that. I'm not planning on that. I just want, I want to be my best. And I don't want to do that in a way. So for 1.25 mile swim, and then you got the bike ride for 24, and then you're running 6 point whatever after that. I mean, the run for me is going to be really hard because the other two I feel really confident in because I do that stuff all the time. But putting them all together. So I do think about that because I don't want to be that person that doesn't finish that race. I mean, it's not intimidating the distance per se, but doing all three of them back to back to back and all that kind of stuff is a little bit. So that's really, I think about that all the time. And I'm like, okay, I can get there. And every time I make that 6, the next time I do it, it is easier. My legs are getting in that kind of shape, my lungs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm doing better with my nutrition and diet. So I'm not dieting per se, but just, a little leaner for me would be easier, less stuff to carry. So that's all good. So, totally. I mean, I do think about that kind of toward that end. And I want to think about how I feel when I crossed that finish line in that Olympic try, and I didn't get cut off because of the time limit. So,
You're going to do great.
So that's my deal.
You guys are going to do fantastic. I have no
Thanks,
doubts.
brother.
You're joking about a time limit. You're not even going to come close to it.
Well, okay, we'll see. But okay, all right. So we got that. Then Hidden Pearls. So I just want to remind everybody the show this week, and we'll talk about again more. But week 17 for the vets, we went up to the MVP Huddle. Their program coordinator is a guy by the name of Bruno Moya. And so great story. And Bruno actually was born and raised in Mexico, immigrated. Cool. And he had about 7 to 8 years as a Marine vet. And now he's the coordinator up at the MVP LA or Las Vegas Huddle. So we're looking forward to him. We're going to get a chance to see him when we get up there this weekend, but it's a great story. But anyway, you guys running into the other hidden pearls. So, or something that is kind of giving you hope this time of year as the shadows, although we're back on the swing now. So the days are getting longer instead of shorter. So that's a good thing.
Are they really?
Yeah, we had the longest day and now it's the longest night.
Yeah, winter solstice.
Yep. So we just had the winter solstice. So now the light is coming back to us. So anyway, but anything that you've seen, heard, or experienced that you'd like to share that will be uplifting and hopeful for our wonderful listeners in this holiday season. So we're just 2 days away from New Year's Eve. And so, it's always kind of a time of checking in. And I know, George, you're right in the middle of things, so it doesn't be quite the same for you probably, but just thinking about what the last year was and how fast things go and what we accomplished or didn't accomplish and what we want the next part to look at. So I've just been spending a lot of time thinking about, who is it that I really want to be in these years of my life? I'm going to be 64 in January. And so what does that look like? And what do I need to do in order to be the person I want to be? So anyway, I downloaded a new conversational Spanish app because I'm working dedicated. I've committed 15 minutes a day. I know it doesn't sound like to my Spanish app. So that's my pledge.
What's your app?
It's called Duolingo.
Oh, wow. I have that too.
And it's pretty good because it talks back to you in both English and Spanish, and then you get to pick them. And so I did my first lesson today. I just downloaded. Guess who I hit up for that? Guess who recommended that, Emma?
Mariana.
No, Mary Louise.
Oh.
So shout out to our favorite dog whisperer in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Mary Louise Romero, and her husband Gordon, who watched Dane for us many, many times and are huge Niner fans.
I have a special plug on that. So Mary Louise I've said this to so many people, and anytime I talk about her, I almost cry, but she's literally an angel, like a walking angel. And I've never met anyone like her. But her son, speaking of dog lovers, her son just adopted this dog. It's a Doberman puppy, and they got it for really cheap. And they were like, they wanted to get a puppy, but couldn't afford one at the time. And so they were like so stoked that they found this dog. And, turns out that the dog's like been pretty badly abused. It's like a little puppy. But she's already like been treated pretty terribly, but she's very malnourished and she needs 2 ACL surgeries. And so they started a GoFundMe account, and like both of the surgeries are going to be between like $3,500 and $4,000. So like possibly up to $8,000. So I'm going to link the GoFundMe link in the show notes. If you feel called to donate, however much it is, just puppies and Mary Louise and just sending some love. Actually, what I was going to say for my hidden pearls, even before you started talking about Mary Louise, was I took Dane into this groomers the other day, and the place that I take him, it's called the Healthy Spot. And oh my gosh, the people in there just like love dogs so much. And there's also another place that we take him to called the Wellness Center of Orange County. And he had like puppy acupuncture, and just people who are so wonderful and kind to animals. It makes me so emotional, and it makes me so grateful that there are people who are just like so loving and compassionate to creatures who like they do speak back. And I really think that you can communicate with dogs, but like that are really different, and that they're so loving and accepting. And anytime I see that, I'm like, there is hope for the world. Like anytime I see a super dog lover, I'm like, man, like we
have a chance.
We have a chance. So I will link the GoFundMe account if you feel called to do so. We are donating. But yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. Georgie, you want to close us out with anything
Wow. Well, I haven't been on for a while. I think there's things that we have done that have given me hope from My favorite Niners community service event of the year, which is the Christmas drive, and like 20 to 30 players show up. We're all outside the stadium. There's like 200 plus cars drive through. We give them presents, glasses, food, water, basically just a whole Christmas supply. And it always warms my heart about how many players show up for that. And so that's a really fun event. You get to interact with so many fans who just love the Niners, and even some people who might not be Niners fans, but they just need the help. And being able to give back in that way as a team is always really fun for me. I know you guys talked about on the podcast our partnership with the Fix Kicks, a sneaker store in San Jose, and Second Harvest, who gets meals. And we raised $20,000, 40,000 meals. Met with 200 plus fans. It was a really cool experience.
It was super cool. So thank you to everybody that came out and donated.
Yeah,
it was really amazing.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. It was a really cool experience. I want to do it again. I know we left people hanging, so we're sorry about that. But it's hard for me to speed up like events like that because I want to give each person their a respectful amount of time because they are huge fans. They support me, and I really appreciate that support. It goes a long way when there's people who are fans and cheer and love, and it feels really good. So I want to make sure that they have wonderful experiences when they meet me, and that they know that it's not just another thing that I am getting through. It's things that I look forward to. So that gives me a lot of hope. And really, I think the biggest amount of hope I've gotten is Christmas season. Yeah, it is you. It's my entire family being at my place on Christmas morning, Claire's entire family, my entire family, and just being able to hang out all day. It means a lot because you don't get a lot of opportunities like that. Being in the NFL, you don't really get Christmas off that often.
That was really cool.
And so being able to come off a win, celebrate Christmas with my family, that just warms my heart.
Yeah.
So
actual day off.
And an actual day off where I didn't have to do anything football related. That was super, super cool. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of a wrap. So that's been really fun. So we're super excited to get up to Las Vegas. New Year's Eve should be really fun. And I can't wait to watch that game. And we'll see. I haven't done any research on two touchdown games, but I'm going to. In a row.
Might as well speak it into existence.
Speak it into existence. So, Emmy, we love you very, very much. Thank you for joining us and being here and guiding us through everything in your infinite wisdom. And we're going to look forward to more recipes for wellness and suggestions on that.
I love recipes for wellness. Thank you for joining us tonight. Emma, you were wonderful.
Who are you, George?
Super bald, shiny, and
So
full
bald.
of love.
Okay. We love you guys. All right. Happy New Year to everybody. Take care of yourself. Be safe, be safe, be safe, be safe, be safe.
Hasta
All right.
luego. Buenas
All right.
noches.
So we're going to go 3, 2, 1. Action.
Amazing.
All right. Hey, Bruce. All right. We are here with Bruno Moya. Got
Yes,
it.
sir.
All right. Bruno is the MVP program coordinator for Las Vegas, and as the Niners are going to board the old plane on Saturday to fly to beautiful Las Vegas on Christmas Eve, stay in a luxury hotel. Not really. That's another story. Anyway, and then play the Raiders on New Year's Day at their brand new fancy pantsy stadium. As normal, we like to try to get somebody from that area. And so we're very, very happy to have Bruno with us as the MVP program coordinator for the Las Vegas Huddle. So Bruno, welcome to the Hidden Pearls podcast. Thank you so much for scheduling time for us.
Bruce, Emma, it's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, very cool. All right. So let's just get a little bit of background on you. So, because there's a lot of people want to know about Bruno. So let's find out.
I know.
So when you and I were talking this week, you're back in Las Vegas after your military experience, because you lived here, I think, until like in at least 7, 8, 9 or something like that. So, but tell us a little bit about where you grew up and kind of your kind of core family structure.
Yeah. So my dad and mother met in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, where they were both living at the time. And I grew up in this town called Juarez. It's a border town of El Paso, Texas. that's where I grew up. It was a really interesting upbringing. My mom's side of the family comes from poverty, and my dad's side comes from the opposite. So I had the privilege of being able to experience both. And then, in the 80s, Mexico, Juarez was not the place to really grow up in. It was pretty dangerous. I don't know if you guys seen the new Narcos, Mexico. That's kind of how I grew up. Not really in the middle of any of that stuff, but it was around. So it was kind of strange growing up in a city like that, where a lot of that stuff, a lot of that activity is going on. I remember just driving down the street and asking my dad, like, "Hey, how come all these buildings are not finished? They've been up there for like 7 months, and construction stopped." He's like, "Well, that building over there belonged to this cartel leader, and he got killed. So no more money, no more anything." So it's a lot of just like these skeleton buildings, not a lot, but a few, that you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up in that environment, and then coming to Las Vegas in '89 was a quite a significant change. I went from like outside all the time with friends, family, like every Saturday and Friday, families would go outside and just, drink beer, have Jamaica or chata or something. I don't know. The kids would be playing and things would be fun, to like coming to Vegas, and none of that existed really. I was one of the only kids in my school that spoke English or spoke Spanish. And my ESL teacher only spoke English, so it was difficult for me to learn.
Welcome to America.
Dude, I thought they had to speak a little bit of Spanish. How do they do the transition? That's tough.
He would read off of the book as best as he could. I would teach him Spanish. I think I was his teacher. I don't know. Yeah. So
okay.
yeah.
How old? And so that was '89. How old were you when you came?
I was about 6-7 years old around that time. Yeah, I forget exactly when in '89 we moved, but I was around that. Yeah. So it was an interesting transition, and I've been in many transitions, across my lifespan. So it's taught me a lot, especially now what I do and helping people transition from place to place.
Well, and then what about brothers and sisters and all that stuff?
Oh, okay. So I'm the 12th one.
Okay.
I'm
wow.
the only one. Yeah. We're going to go there. So I'm the only one from my mom and dad. My dad, like I said, he had the privilege. And so he had, a lot of women through his time. And I think I was the fourth from his second marriage, but from his fourth relationship. So it was a very difficult to explain to people how my upbringing was, because I have 12 different brothers and sisters from 4 different marriages or relationships. So
how many came with you to Las Vegas?
About half.
Okay.
About half of them, yeah. So one of my sisters moved out here and recommended to my dad to move out. And at that time, so he worked on the Mexican side of the border. So he's border patrol, but on the Mexican side, customs. Mm-hmm. And during the 80s, like I said, it was just a really dangerous time. He kept getting hit up, and he said, "You know what? We gotta leave ASAP." Sold his ranch, and then we moved to Vegas almost immediately after that. And about half of my brothers and sisters followed suit after that.
Okay,
that's a solid family. Well, so yeah. I mean, even with how big your family was there any specific lesson or maybe lesson or teaching that you took away from your family, from any of them?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we're pretty close. Most of us are pretty close. Some of my brothers and I, we talk every week. Some of them still live out in El Paso. One of the biggest lessons is just that sometimes your background and who your mom was or who your dad is, like that really doesn't matter. It's about the connections, the experiences that people have together that really matter, that really bond people together. I mean, there's many times when some of my brothers and sisters just, I had an afro back in the day, not anymore. And it was really curly. I had really curly hair, and I was the only kid in my family with really curly hair. So my brothers would just, I was easy to pick on, and I was the youngest one. So it taught me how to, a lot of strength and toughness, but also just how to forgive a lot. Like a lot of them afterwards, when I joined the Marines, strangely enough, a lot of them were like, "Hey, I'm really sorry for picking on you when you were small."
Okay. But I heard in there too, just as far as a lesson, though, this notion that, if I was getting it right, that your personal inner circle, that tribe or that family, however you want to define it, it's not necessarily made up of, the stoic traditional, mom and dad and kids and all that kind of stuff, that it can be a bit eclectic and include, members from around, but it still has meaning and value based on the connections and the relationships you develop. Was I hearing that right?
100%.
Okay.
We would go play, my parents would go play cards at my brother's mom's house that lived down the street here in Las Vegas. And at that time I was like, how is this lady related to me? Like, I love her, but I don't know, is she my aunt? What is she? And then my mom was like, let's just call her your grandma. You're the grandma. It's like, all right, she's my other grandma. So,
right.
And she had that, a lot of them had that grandmother energy where they would take care of me, even though I was not their kid, but they treated me like one. And it really taught me how to love people for who they were and the experiences that we had together. Because it definitely wasn't easy growing up with my dad. He was really hard on us. And so it was difficult growing up with him. And so we all share that experience. And that really was something that bonded us together. And taught us a lot about life too.
Cool.
So then did you stay in, you've stayed in, besides military, you've been in Vegas the entire time?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something about it, I think, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but the work that I do, you can call it, God's work or divine messaging, but something is telling me to stay here in the city of sin to help people heal from whatever they're struggling with. So that's why I think that's what's keeping me here.
Well, yeah, we'll circle back to that because we got a little segment on healing and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and it'll be interesting. Yeah. But a lot of the attraction of Las Vegas is because it offers those opportunities. As we all know, if you've been connected to the recovery world or the transitions and healing world, a lot of times we indulge in order to mask or hide some of the injuries or wounds that we've not taken care of. And so Las Vegas is kind of a ripe spot for that. So I don't want to overthink it, but okay. And then if you got somebody, it's no big deal, but I'm just always curious if there's some other person or one person in your life, doesn't have to be the top person, but it's somebody that's kind of inspired you and why.
Yeah, I would say for sure it's my dad. And very, very close to that would be my mom as well. But I think my dad, he passed away when he was 89. He had me in his 50s. So it was just, again, very different growing up. But my dad was very much a stoic, and he taught me a lot about life through just his knowledge, his wisdom, but also through his experiences. I learned a lot of what not to do just by growing up with him. Like I grew up in a house where it was my mom, 2 or 3 of my brothers and sisters that would just kind of come and go sometimes, and then my dad's mistress. So like, definitely don't do that. So
okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So
Noted.
So your dad was pretty firm and all that, but it kind of sounds like too. I mean, he was really exposed to kind of the real world of things and faced, kind of that kind of violence from outside and the threats and the risks and all that kind of stuff. And so there was a lot of that too. So that can kind of carry over. So, okay. So you graduated Las Vegas High School. Is that what it's called?
Clark High School.
Clark High School, Las Vegas. Okay. So, and then I got you graduating in 2001. So what year would you graduate high school then? What was the gap between enlistment and high school?
10 days.
Oh,
I knew.
bam.
The reason why I joined the Marine Corps, first of all, my dad was like, hey, I want you to join the military. You live in America. We love America. It's given us a lot of opportunity. And so you're going to join the military and you're going to join the Air Force. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And then I started watching TV, and this commercial of some guy in his like jeans and like a shirt came on, and then all of a sudden, like he was on a checkerboard or a chessboard, and then you had a sword, and the dragon came out. And that's what got me. That commercial was like, I saw that commercial and I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to slay dragons on a chessboard, and I'm going to join the Marines.
Because at the end of the commercial, right, he's in his full dress with his sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I remember that one. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's the one that got me. I think that got like 50% of the 80s kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So your dad kind of nudged you toward looking at the military. You resisted a bit, but then during that senior year, you started looking, and then so you were all signed up and ready to go. And so 10 days after you enlisted, or did you go? When did you actually take off?
So I signed the paperwork soon after I turned 18. I was still in high school. My parents didn't want to sign it for me. So once I turned 18, I signed my own paperwork, graduated, got my diploma barely, and then graduated. 10 days later, I was on that yellow bus going down to MCRD. Yeah.
Okay.
San Diego.
All right. Down to San Diego. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then eventually you end up being a machine gunner in the Fox Company 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines, if I've got that correct. Okay. Yeah. So you do your training in San Diego, and then eventually, so in 2003, you take off. So tell us a little bit about life in the military from 2001 to your deployment.
So I was in boot camp during September 11th. For those people that know a boot camp in San Diego for the Marines, it's literally attached to the airport. So on September 11th, there's planes taking off early in the morning, and then all of a sudden, nothing, right? And nobody's allowed to leave. Nobody's about to come in. And we get the word that, we've been involved in a terrorist attack. And at that point, just everything changed for myself and everybody in the Marine Corps at the time. And one of the caveats there is that when I joined the Marines, my dad, and, I'm very, culturally, we're Mexican. So when parents like, hey, this is what the direction that we want you to go, that's how I was kind of raised. So they didn't want me to join the Marine Corps, but I made a deal with them. I cut a deal. I was like, all right, I'll join the reserves, but not active duty. They're like, all right, done. You can join the Marine Corps, just the reserves. And September 11th changed all of that. I went from a reservist to active duty almost immediately after that. Yeah, exactly. I got done with all my training on my boot camp, my MOS training for machine gunner. Came back home, I think it was November, and then December got activated, showed up in January 2002. 2002 is when I got activated. And so at that point, we were essentially, unbeknownst to us, we were training to go to Iraq at that point. And what we were told is that we were training to be, and I believe this as well, like we were training to be the quick reaction force, the QRF to West Coast, any type of attacks or riots or anything that happened during 2002. We were the people that are going to go out there and facilitate all of that. But really, we were training to go to Iraq. We got deactivated December of 2002, reactivated January 2003, and then we were boots on the ground in Kuwait in 2003. I think it was February 2003, and then the war kicked off in March.
Okay, so before we kind of get into that deployment, just how was that transition in? It seems like that was a pretty seamless. Like you were ready to go, you wanted to be a Marine. So boot camp and all that kind of stuff. I mean, no big shocker. I mean, it was, obviously challenging in the way that it is, but that transition in was pretty seamless for you, or how was that?
I was used to the getting yelled at and having a lot of discipline in the house. So the boot camp was not as difficult. I never got sorted beat or anything like that. There was no violence in my house, but if I got out of line, my dad would give me a good old fresh one, So I was used to that type of environment. And most of the time, to be honest, like I deserved any type of spanking I got. And so the boot camp and the training was not too difficult, but I was really green, right? So my mom was I would say she's almost a helicopter parent. So my dad wanted to expose me to elements, to everything, and my mom was like, "Nope, definitely not." Just because of the way that she grew up in the poverty and everything. So I was still pretty green at that time, going into the military. So there was a lot of learning experiences for myself, just being a really dumbass 18-year-old kid, going into the Marines, and then all of a sudden, here's a M16, you're going to go to war. So I had a lot to learn really quickly.
Was there any military in your family, like any military experience or lineage?
Yeah. So my family on my dad's side, there's a lot of military history. And downstairs, we have a sword from one of my grandfathers who fought in the Mexican Revolution. So there's military history. My dad was in the military in Mexico. My brother joined the army here in the United States. My other brother was a federal police officer in Mexico in the 90s. And then, stuff got too crazy and he moved to the United States. So, yeah, we have a lot of history of military, not just in the U.S., but in Mexico and stuff like that. So, yeah, that I think that's the driving force too.
That seems like a whole nother podcast, diving into the Mexico military. And
I was going to say, I bet that sword is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. So then, so you're kind of losing the greenness a little bit. You've been trained and you're that machine gunner, and there you all set. So you show up February 2003 in Kuwait. Iraqis just starting to take off. You're one of the first troops on the ground as that goes. So, and again, whatever you feel comfortable sharing about, but tell us a little bit about that deployment and what you would like people to know.
I think that I only did one deployment in Iraq, and I don't say it like I only did it like there's some regret or anything like that. And I know that there's a lot of vets that they do one deployment, 2, 3, 4, and they always say like, I just did this, so I've learned a lot about that. But this deployment, I think, really was something that has carried a lot of what I learned has carried on throughout my entire life. So we got to Baghdad on April 8th, 2003. And we were a part of the unit that General James Mattis was commander of. So he was a part of first RCT, First Regimental Combat Team. So he was the commander of all of 1st Marine Division, which I was attached to. So historically, I was a part of that unit, which was just pretty cool to be a part of for that invasion. But when we got to Baghdad, which I think was the heaviest fighting that we got into, we were tasked to take over the intelligence facility in Baghdad, and just encountered a lot of resistance there, and a lot of civilian population moving in, moving out. Like there's a lot of confusion from the enemy, from us, from the civilian population. Like, what is going on? Americans are here. We're just trying to get to work, or we're just trying to get out of Baghdad. And in the middle of all of that, in the middle of all that fighting, a lot of civilian casualties from our end, and then also from our enemy's end. So that was something that took me a long time to get over. I remember there was couple of vehicles that were coming towards us. We didn't know if they were enemy friendly. At that point, the Iraqi military just collapsed. So they were using anything and anything that they could to fight us. And so whenever we saw a civilian vehicle, we weren't sure if it was friendly or not. And I remember 2 vehicles coming at us. We shot at them, and it ended up being an entire family in those 2 vehicles. Part of our unit, once we discovered that, a part of our unit went out to attempt to rescue them. Some of them got shot, not fatally, but they got shot trying to rescue them. And so it was a family of it was a wife, husband, and 4 children, and all of the males in the family we killed. So it was 3 sons and the father that we killed, and I think an uncle as well. And that just placed a huge impact on me for the rest of my military career and then getting out. The biggest lesson there is that 10 years later in 2013, well, actually 2012, a friend of mine that served together, we were just really going through the ringer as far as just the transition. I got out in 2008, and at 2012, I had still not transitioned out of the military. And so we decided to look for this family that is causing just a lot of mental stress and trauma in our life. And we ended up finding them living in, I believe, Riverside, California. And we reached out to them, and they accepted to meet with us. So a few of us went down there and met with his family and just got a lot of closure. But I think the biggest lesson there was when I pulled up to their apartment. I forget who opened the door, but I see this little Iraqi woman who's like, I don't know, 4'10" or something like that, very, very short. She just stares at me. I was one of the first ones to open the door. She stares at me, and then she opens her arms like this, and it was the mom. And so, I just went up to her and I embraced her, and she cooked for us. We shared a lot of our stories, what we're up to, everything. She told us about her sons, about her husband. We talked a lot over dinner, and they gave us dessert. I mean, the whole nine. And that experience within itself, just meeting somebody that we were responsible for taking more than half of her family and her husband and her sons was very, very, very impactful. But also, the biggest lesson that I got from that is, she can forgive us and understand and have compassion for the position that we were in and for what we did. And, I carry that over. If she can do that, then, somebody votes for Biden or for Trump or whatever, that doesn't really matter, So, that really was one of the biggest lessons that I learned in the military. My deployment is that aspect of war, but also the healing aspect of war, and moving forward to transition. And I think I'm unique in being able to tell a story like that I've met the people that I shot at in that situation. And there's a couple articles out there. There's an article by a gentleman called Dexter Filkins from the New Yorker at the time, or the New York Times, I believe. He wrote an article the day after we first met this family, because they were in the hospital, and they were just, he could hear the daughter crying. The daughter at the time was like 12, 13. We had shot her over the right shoulder, and the mom was, she was unscathed physically, but obviously not mentally. And this nurse decided to, it was a male nurse, decided to just really take care of them. And later on, the nurse and the daughter married, and Dexter Filkins, the day after the incident, wrote a story about them. And that's how we were able to connect with them years later. And we reached out to Dexter Filkins, and he was with the New Yorker at the time, and he wrote another article about us meeting them. And so, that was probably one of the biggest lessons and the healing aspects of my military career, is that experience of what a civilian population, the suffering of the civilian population, and the people that go to war as well. It's a mixture of everything. So, yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's a big story. I was gonna say, in the last 3 seasons we've been doing this, we've never heard a story like that. So it's pretty amazing.
Not at the meeting, but we have had a couple others though where they had encounters with what turned out to be civilian casualties, and very young casualties.
Yeah.
Involved in kind of a truck in the city, that kind of stuff, and not sure. And then, at some point you have to defend yourself in that. And And actually, it turned out, some of the younger ones were, in the vehicle, and they're still not clear about what the adults were doing or not doing because there was some ammunition and stuff. But that impact of taking that civilian, because I think it's so hard for people that have never been in that situation you really feel the confliction and confusion that you must face because you're trying to defend yourself and your brethren and sisters while you're out there doing your job. And because of the confusion about vehicles and the lack of clarity about who's on what side and who's doing what. So, I thank you again for sharing that story. And it really, draws up so I worked for years with restorative justice, which is kind of bringing people together a lot in the crime context between crime victims and offenders. But there has been a lot of work with groups like the Fellowship of Reconciliation and the Restorative Justice International about bringing that very kind of situation together. So the power of kind of dialogue and face-to-face meetings, particularly if it includes food, that's always a good thing. But that's a really, really, really powerful story. So I'm grateful that you had that. I'm wondering, you said in that, so even back, so you got out in 2008, and then still in 2012 and 13, you were still kind of, can you describe a little bit kind of what kind of symptoms, or when you say you were really struggling with it, like where were you? How would you describe yourself during that time period as you were trying
I don't know where I was, man. Yeah, I was not in my mind. Yeah, I don't know where I was. I think a lot of people, and I hear this with a lot of Vietnam veterans, describe that, they left a part of themselves back in Vietnam. And I understand that part a lot. And I think in 2012, 2013, I got a piece of that back, but it was still very, I think it was, like Odysseus, it's like the return home, 10 years. It just took me a long time to really understand and heal and then also grab some wisdom out of my military career. Because for a long time, I was just angry at America. I was angry at the military. Not too much the Marine Corps, strangely enough, because it's a culture of like bondage, camaraderie. So I wasn't too angry at the Marine Corps, but I was angry at the position that I was put in taking life in that manner. I think it's a difference if I were to take a combative life, somebody who's my enemy, and it's still, I'm not saying it's still okay. War sucks, but there's a bit of a large difference between somebody who's just trying to get out of the city to somebody who's trying to kill you, and so there was a lot of moral injury there, and just trying to get over that. And I think a lot of that didn't really pass until I started dabbling a lot into other healing modalities not really offered in the US. I think that's when really I got over it. But again, the main driving force was meeting this lady who opened her arms and embraced me after such an incident that took so much away from her, that she was still able to share her love with us. So that by far was one of the biggest healing factors.
Which really, it rolls us back to one of the values you brought up about your family, because you got picked on and all that. And this notion of being able to forgive and make amends and let the relationship take off, even if everything wasn't perfect, which they rarely are. And so that whole notion, that's a really complicated kind of arrangement in that realm, to talk about it in that kind of way. But there is certainly benefit for both parties, being able to try to do that. So, we're going to kind of try to do 2 tracks, and I've got them laid out, and they're like separate, but I know they're not separate. So when you talk about kind of healing modalities from that point forward, we're super curious about, what your process was and what you were doing and all that. So, and I don't necessarily want to separate these. And then the other piece is, at some point after your discharge, I know you eventually get a degree with your BA in psychology in 2015. So it means somewhere in 2012 or somewhere in there, you started school again. Yeah. And so maybe let's walk through, as you're regrouping and trying to figure things out, you decided to start going after that psychology degree. What was that process like? And then just as we're talking, I think it's really helpful to share, like you said, the healing modalities and, trial and error, who you connected with, what was helpful, maybe what wasn't, and that kind of stuff, because it's such a unique journey for everyone that goes through these kind of things. And so I think hearing about how that went, and then is this educational process as you're kind of creating your own career and what you see for yourself going forward. So talk to us then as you transition from this conversation and meeting to enrolling in school, and where were you going with that, and how did all this fit together?
Yeah, there's a saying that I keep hearing, that sometimes the universe conspires for you, and I think in many ways that happened for me, because when I got out, 2008, it was at the height of the Great Recession. So luckily, very fortunately, I was a valet attendant in one of the casinos here in Las Vegas, which another, talk about a transition. I was a combat instructor, a platoon sergeant in the Marine Corps, in charge of a lot of people, responsible for a lot of people, I should say. And then I was a valet guy at a casino. I was like, hey, go fetch my car, dude. So that was another element of learning and experience that I had from that to that, and then also just trying to make enough money to feed my wife and my kid. I had at that point, my kid, when I got out of the military, was a year and a half. So I've been married for a year and a half. And so, trying to support them and all of that was another stress in itself, But I remember my dad, having a conversation with me at one point, and he's like, look, you have this job, which is good for you. You have a job, but you're drinking a lot. You come home, you drink, and you're not really doing anything with your life. You're going to come to a point where you're going to be my age, and you're going to have a lot of regret and resentment, or you're going to amount to something. And that's really, it's really up to you. And I can tell you that one of those things that really helps is going to school. So go to school. I'll help you if you need money to go to school, all of that. And so luckily, fortunately for the military, we have the GI Bill. So got my ass to school, started at the community college, and decided after that interaction with the family, I really wanted to look at mental health, psychology, psychiatry. I don't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to help other people that have been in experiences like I had been in. So I enrolled in school, decided to go into psychology, and then 2015, or 2013, 2014, moved over to the university, UNLV, go Rebels. Yeah, exactly. And so then after that, graduated in 2015. However, one of the biggest things that I learned while in the military, or while a student, was the advocacy, the after school activity, the involvement. A good friend of mine, Jared Lyon, who is the president of Student Veterans of America. I remember him saying one time that 70% of the experience of college is not just doing your homework, not just getting your grades, but what you do outside, the networking, the things that you do, the extracurricular activities that you do to really add to your experience of what it is to be a lifelong student. And so I took that serious. I became a chapter leader for one of the UNLV Rebel Vets, which is a part of the Student Veterans of America, and just really got to work advocating for higher education for veterans, because what I was seeing through my experience was education is a big piece of it. And for me, being in the psychology background, I was able to get exposed to healing modalities. They weren't experiential; they were academic, which is a big difference. And we can talk a little bit about that. 'Cause the program that I'm in now, it's experiential, 100%, and a little bit of academic, but it's mostly experiential. And I think that's where the real learning is, really. But anyway, I started getting exposed to these modalities of psychology, therapy, all these different modalities that psychologists and therapists deploy now. So I started getting exposed to that and started to kind of peel the onion back a little bit, little by little, in my own healing, because I still had a lot of healing to do after meeting the family. So graduated in 2015 and got, just like when I graduated from high school and went straight to the military, the next semester I was in the graduate degree, decided to go into social work because I was unsure of what direction I wanted to go. My sister's a social worker. I have two sisters that are social workers, and one of them has her PhD in social work. And she's like, look, social work is a diverse background or a diverse degree. You can do therapy, you can do all sorts of different things. Psychology is very pigeonholed, so you're going to be stuck being a therapist or something like that. So think about that. And I hate being pigeonholed, so I went with social work. And I started doing a lot more advocacy in the political realm. Started meeting a lot of politicians, advocating for higher education, and eventually got an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. a bunch of times and to our state capitol here in Nevada. Wrote a couple of bills, drafts that became bills for our state. Advocated for a couple of bills on the federal level, and that was an experience. I almost got into politics, but I'm glad I never did that. So, but I think the things that I learned while I was sitting in the classroom were really important. But most of the things that I learned that are stuck with me is just the advocacy that I did outside of the classroom. So, writing up bills. Like I was a social worker. My role was just to help people that were in front of me through therapy. And here I am, like, I didn't know what to do. They were like, hey, you should write a bill about, this, because this is what's missing in our state. So I just Googled, how to write a bill, looked up a policy draft, and just cut and paste the template and just wrote it myself. And, a couple of months later, the governor signed it. And that was quite an experience doing that a couple of times. And it just really taught me, like, growing up in Mexico, this kid that when I moved here in the United States, like, this kid that got picked on by my brothers, by other kids in school, thinking that I was just a dumb little kid, to like writing these bills just by simply using Google while in college was a learning experience for me. It really exposed me to my true potential of being able to focus on something, even though you don't know anything about it, and getting after it. So that was another experience in college that I had, of just like, hey, you can do something. There's something that's not right here. So do something about it, right? Write a bill or do something. So you can Google it. You don't need a college education to Google. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. There's a lot in there. I might have to cut you off every now and then so we can chat. But the one I guess that really resonated for me personally was the connection between the academic study and then doing shit in the street or doing real life activities. Because I would say that's true for both my law degree as well as having a master's of divinity. When I was going through that after my law degree, I worked connected to, it was kind of a soup kitchen type thing for the homeless in Madison, homeless shelter. And then we had a storage unit at a church that we worked at, where they could kind of keep their stuff, check it in and out, because, they have nowhere to put any of their stuff and all that kind of thing. But it's one thing to study, the Gospels and talk about justice, and all that. And then even from a legal perspective, understanding the legalities of how to pass a bill and blah, 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 and all the politics and all that shit. But like, you spend a couple of years doing that. And then I worked at a legal clinic for prisoners in the state system, doing legal services for inmates. If you go into a prison 3 to 5 times a week for a long time. Anyway, but it changes. You can take all those academic studies, and it's kind of helpful, and it's a background and a foundation, but there's nothing like seeing people, who are being impacted by the policies and whatever's going on, and then working with them side by side and trying to figure out ways to make their lives better. So that's pretty cool. So I think, let me just toss a couple things. So you worked with the Student Veterans of America. You were part of the Leadership Institute, I believe. And then also eventually were awarded the UNLV, is it Greenspun College of Urban Affairs Alumnus of the Year Award for your accomplishments. And then also, if I have it right, one of your trips to DC, you got to go to President Obama's 2015 State of the Union address. Yeah. So although that's pretty cool, did you get to shake hands with old Barack?
No, I didn't.
What?
I did not. Dang. No, I wish I could have. Yeah, that was a quite an experience. At that time, I wasn't sure what political ideology, all of that. I was still, and I guess I was still pretty green in that field. I just knew that I loved policy work. That's what I focused on, as policy work. I didn't care about people's, ideology, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or anything like that. So getting to go to Washington, D.C. during, the State of the Union address, and that was the time when our nation really started to get really divided. And so watching people, when he would, say something, half the room would stand up, the other would not clap and just stay seated or whatever, and just starting to get exposed to that firsthand was also quite an experience. But so when I got invited to Washington, D.C. for that, it was just with some of the work that I've done with some of the politicians here in our state, Senator Harry Reid, who recently passed away, and then another congressman, Crescent Hardy, who was a first-time congressman from out of Nevada. He was the one that actually gave me the ticket to go see the State of the Union address, and just sitting, in Congress, watching that, watching something so historic that happens every year, but not a lot of people get to experience firsthand was mind blowing. Again, here's this kid coming from Mexico that didn't know how to speak any English when he was 7 years old to sitting in front of the president of the United States, watching him give this speech was just another experience. Was like, America is the land of the dreams if you know how to get after it. So
right, dreams do come true if you roll up your sleeves and go to work. No doubt.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, so, I mean, in just hearing about all the things that you're doing and just how your mind, it just seems like, I'm totally of the same mind as you. Is going to school is so healing, and I feel like it just pulls you through different things, and always having that beginner's mindset and being a sponge and learning. But just, were there any other healing modalities that you were participating in, besides, whether it was talk therapy or group therapy or different things that were really helping to maybe ground you, but also process all the things that you've been going through?
Not at that time. I was still very much a Marine mindseted type of knucklehead where I was like, nope, I'm fine. I already got my healing. I met the family. I can move on.
One and done, baby.
Yeah, exactly. That was my brute thinking was like, nope, I'm good. The wife did suggest, what were you going to say?
Well, you said you were telling yourself you were good, but as you look back on it, were you good?
No, 100% no.
So is this transition, so now we're in 2015, 16, 17-ish, and you're in your master's program. When you say you weren't good, and I don't want to put any words on that or spin on it, but what kind of symptoms, or, and I don't want to call it necessarily depression or use of alcohol, whatever, but what would characteristic, how, okay.
Yeah, all of it. I because of where I grew up in Mexico, drugs were something that I was afraid of. So I never really delved into any hard drugs like that. I came close every once in a while just because of the company that I kept at that time. Well, before that, when I went to school, I definitely changed my environment, and that was I had a different experience, and I think that's really important to understand. The people that you're with are going to either add value to your life or not. So you have to identify that. I was fortunate enough to be able to associate with people that were going to school because they wanted to better themselves. So a lot of alcohol, a lot of numbness, and I think that was the biggest thing in my relationship with my wife, is that we were just two people living together. We were not really a couple. At one point, she's like, "Hey, look, man, you got to go get help. You're like really unavailable. You're always out trying to save the world, but you're never at home. Even when you're at home, you're like really never at home." I've always had a really good relationship with my daughter. That's really important to me, just because of how I grew up. My dad was not always there, and so when I had my first kid, like I vowed, like I'm always going to be in this kid's life. So, that was part of the healing, is just at least having that mindset. And that's something that my dad taught me, is like, hey, look, I made a lot of mistakes. I was never always available with you guys. When you have children, change that. And so I decided to do that. And so there was nothing really that I was doing to really help myself. It was always in service, right? Like I was always out there trying to do something for other people. And that's how I got my fix on my own personal healing. But it didn't really get to the core of my healing until honestly, until I after I graduated. I was working for a senator, and then I came across this men's group where they ingested the psychedelic, and that really was what truly opened up my spirituality, my mindset, and my heart. So that's really what did it. But everything that I was doing before that was preparing me for that experience.
For sure.
Because I was just in service of everybody except myself and my family at the time.
Well, let's dive into it, because I am so curious about this.
So let's go there. I just want to summarize that, though, because I think it's such an important note, is that, we talk all the time that your cup can't overflow or flow for others unless you've got it full, and you got to take care of yourself and all that. But it is so true with so many care providers. They're terrible at self-care, and they're always giving, and they get worn out. And then when you add an extra layer of kind of the trauma, and I don't know if you feel diagnosed with PTSD, or I don't want to get, but if you add that layer onto it, and then I think, and Susie always talks about an MVP, they estimate 35 to 40% of veterans, before they even enlist, and when they do enlist, they've already got PTSD from childhood trauma. So, you mix all that together, and then you come out after a deployment, and there's a whole bunch of stuff kind of going on. And so, and then people get super busy either in work or service stuff. And it's kind of a spiritual bypassing, in the sense that by our energies, and we focus over here, we can kind of ignore all the bullshit that's going on inside of us. And so I guess what I want to get to is, you mentioned the story with your wife finally saying, look, dude, you got to go do some work. Was that really the catalyst to kind of turn your attention inward? Or was there any other event that kind of like you looked in the mirror and said, shit, I got to get after this? Or tell us, and if this is the story about the psychedelics, go ahead and take us there. Let's hear about that, because you're in a PhD program now and working in this area. So explain all that to us, and then talk to us a little bit about how that healing process opened up for you and what that journey looks like.
Yeah. So I graduated. I started working at a veterans transitional housing, a homeless shelter. And then I got a call from a senator, not himself, but his staff, if I wanted to go work with them. And I took that. I was like, yes. And so I started doing all of this. So I was checking the boxes. Like, what is a man supposed to do? Have a good job, provide for his family, spend time with their kids. Like, I was just checking the box on all of this stuff. And I think I was killing it, but I was killing myself essentially at that point, because I was really not available to understanding myself primarily. And then also having a real relationship with my wife and my kids. So in 2017, my wife was adamant about having another kid. And I really did not want to have another kid, because I was happy where I was, I thought so, but not really. And so I have a very attractive wife, and she just suckered me into having another kid. So I was like, yeah, sure, we'll have another kid. And so, she was...
It's all her fault. Damn it.
Her fault. Yeah,
just
exactly.
Too good looking. Dang it.
Yeah.
So, but you do know now how little kids are created, right? So you've got that figured out now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of experience there for that.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
But Yeah, so my wife was about 7 months pregnant, and a couple of buddies also from MVP. They're like, "Hey, we do this. We get together every once in a while with a bunch of guys, and we do this stuff." And I was like, something inside of me was like, "This is where you need to be." So I decided to explore it, but it was like, all right, a bunch of guys, we're sleeping over somebody's house, and we're doing drugs. That's a recipe. That's what my dad exactly warned me about. Like, that's where you're gonna wake up with your pants underneath your knees, and you're gonna ask yourself, "What the hell did I get myself into?" You know. So I was skeptical, but I looked around the guys that were inviting me, and I trusted them. So I decided to say yes, and we got together. This guy who was in the military for a really long time did some really high level stuff. Started talking to us about what we were going to do. And so I just trusted what we were going to do. You know, I didn't think anything funny was going to happen. And so I took this pill that later I found out was called Kana, which is a South African succulent that it's a very heart opener. And a couple hours into it, I was laying on the grass, and I had my forehead on the grass, and it feels like I can't really put any words to really describe this, but you know, my wife was about 7 months pregnant, and I laid my forehead on the grass, and Mother Earth just sucked me in, right? And I was at the core of the earth. And then she kind of like was holding me up like this. And she just kept on slapping me up, you know, like back and forth. And every time she would slap me, like I felt a lot of love. Like the slap was more of like she was injecting love into me. And at some point she with her other hand, she kind of like showed me. And so Kana is not it's not psychoactive. It's a heart opener, so you're not really seeing. It's not supposed to be hallucinogenic, but right. For me, I had these visions, and so on this other hand, she was presenting me with my wife. She's like, "You're supposed to be taking care of this. You're not supposed to just live there and not do anything, and you're supposed to be a man. And this is what a masculine, true energy of a man is." And so I don't know how many hours after that I came to, I looked up, and this was one of the most amazing things was that as I looked up, I saw that, so we were still in Las Vegas, and my friend's house has this really huge house, and like the Luxor light. So for those of you that know, the Luxor has this pyramid, and it's got this light that goes up. So it was on, and it was beaming up, and there was like a cloud that was, you know, getting ready to go through it, right? And as I see the cloud, it's shaped like a bean, and then the light hits the top of it, so it looks like a fetus. And then like, there it is, man. Like, I'm about to be a father again. What type of child am I going to help raise? Am I going to be another guy that's creating more trauma for these children that are growing up, or am I going to get my shit together? And that was about, I don't know how many years of therapy balled into this little pill and in this patch of grass, and me getting sucked into the earth. And that one experience completely changed my life. I mean, I came home and my wife just looked at me and she goes, because I didn't tell her what I was going to do. She thought I was going to go to a slumber party. And so she looked at me, and I remember I came home and she was still laying down in the bed, and I've never done this. And at the time, we've been married 11, 12 years, I forget. And I've said I love you to her like a handful of times. I can count in two hands how many times in those many years. And I remember laying down next to her, and I embraced her, and she started to cry because, you know, I've never really done that. And a couple of days later, you know, she noticed this extreme change, and she's like, "What did you do?" And then I explained to her what I did. She's like, "You need to do that more." And so, yeah. And that was really what I thought. What I was there to do is to learn how to be a better husband, better father, but really what I was there exploring, and what I'm doing now is, which is, I believe, is the key to everything, is learning how to love yourself, learning about yourself and learning how to love yourself. Because once you do that, once you're unwilling to compromise yourself, you become a better husband, a better father, a better son, all of that, well-rounded individual. Once you learn how to properly love yourself, and then also properly understand what men do, what a masculine individual is here to do, because we get these notions of what that is, and sometimes it can be very confusing. Like for me, it was, how my dad raised me is have a lot of women, make a lot of money, and live your life without any regrets like I did. But then watching him die he was alone. He didn't have anybody, because he always was worried about himself, and he was afraid. Come to find out, a lot of that came from fear. He needed to have a lot of women because he was insecure of being by himself. And that really changed with the work that I do now with psychedelics. Is one of the most beautiful and the most scariest experiences all balled up into one is being able to take a substance that's going to place a mirror right in front of you and like, this is who you are. What are you going to do about it? And so that's really what led my transition from mental health to healing, to being a healer, and what led me into this program that I'm in now, that is very experiential. And part of the core aspect of this program that I'm in is doesn't really teach you about, well, it does, but it's not, the core of it is to teach you how to know yourself as a therapist, as a psychedelic therapist, so you don't go out and hurt anybody in the process. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, dude, you're just dropping like these gems all over the place. So anyway, I guess the two things, and then I want to give Emma a chance too, but I guess the two things I want you to follow up with a little bit is, one is this notion of healthy masculinity, or at least that's the term I use for it, instead of this, what you described as kind of this either John Wayne or other kind of, macho kind of thing and all that kind of stuff. So what does it mean really to have a sense of healthy masculinity? But I don't want to step over, though. You said that you felt like the whole key to this whole thing was to unlock yourself, and your potential for others is founded on the ability to eventually love yourself and or probably forgive yourself. So I don't know if you captured everything you want to say about that, but I think so, like in the world of meditation and mindfulness that Em and I are both out of, so there's a whole series of work around the loving kindness meditation, the metta work, which starts with that principle. And so the meditation, however long it is, but the first third of it typically is loving kindness toward yourself. And that from there, then you go to loving kindness toward people that you are familiar with and you care about and all that kind of stuff. And then you gradually work out toward people you don't really like too well, and you practice loving kindness toward them. But all of that transcends because it's based on this understanding that you can't really love others and relate with them in a really constructive way long term until you heal your own wounds and you find a way to love yourself and forgive yourself. And that doesn't mean not being accountable to things that you've done. It just means, not beating yourself up, have healthy self-talk, all that kind of stuff. So I guess, and then Emma, I want you to, because Emma's really good at, she does all this stuff too. So I just want to, but that I think this notion of loving yourself, because that really is conflictual to some extent with, healthy masculinity, or I don't think it is, but I think that men in particular have a hard time. And I'm just going to put this, I just finished one of the Huberman podcasts, and he was with this ex-Green Beret dude or a Navy SEAL guy, and neither one of them are meditators particularly. And they got to this notion about kind of loving yourself and all that, and kind of poo-pooed it, like, and but they didn't like go down that road. But it kind of, I felt a little bad that they missed an opportunity to embrace something that I think is such a powerful component of that healing modality. So anyway, I'm running on that, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Emmy, if you want to add something to set it up.
Yeah. You guys are both like on these 10-minute comments, and then anything you want to add? Well, I guess, yeah. So I just thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that is something that I just think like everybody in the world needs to hear. And I think, I've done my fair share of talk therapy and group therapy and a lot of other different types of therapies, but there is nothing like plant medicine to me. And I think there are a lot of really scary drugs out there, and there are a lot of things that can go terribly wrong. But if you have respect and wisdom around the plants, like the network that you can tap into, I mean, really just hearing you like talk about where you were just face down. I mean, I'm like, I always got to be in Mother Nature when I'm doing something, but it just reminded me so much of
100%.
Avatar. And if you guys have seen like the new one that just came out, how they plug into, I mean, or what is it? AWA, how you plug in. I mean, it's literally like the exact same thing. And while we don't have tails and we're not blue, it's how you plug back. Yeah, Bruce has a tail actually, guys. Surprise, surprise. But it's how you plug back into the medicine of Mother Earth. And so for the first time, so I've never heard of Kona, so I'm very excited about this. But hearing you talk about it, it kind of sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like a little bit MDMA-ish in the heart opener space.
Yeah, very much so.
And it drops the inhibitors.
Exactly. And from the research that I did, Kana is used in South Africa in tribal warrior tribal communities. And they use that to be able to bring home the warriors after going off and doing what they have to do, because it's a heart opener. So, and I mean, yeah, and MDMA, if you study the history, it's not a party drug. It wasn't created to be a party drug. Right. It was created to be a healing tool for people, and open up their hearts. And then, the 90s, 80s, 90s rave scene and all of that stuff blew it all up. But and that's okay. It's okay to celebrate, but understanding how to celebrate, not how to party. There's a difference. And just going back to the loving yourself and the masculine aspect of things is learning. That for me has been, it's hard to explain, because through my experiences. But the biggest thing that I've learned about that is, we get told certain things because we see them in movies or whatever the case is, or because and I'll go with this. Actually, this brings up a good point. So a lot of the work that I do outside of MVP is with men specifically, and in these circles, and 9.5 times out of 10, the biggest struggle that men face is exactly how Susie said, is like 33% have childhood trauma, and like 9.5 out of 10 guys that I talk to, and we do these therapeutic exercises that I'm learning, is their struggle with specifically their father, or their dynamic with their father and their mother, and how that helped develop them into this individual that at the core did not teach them how to love themselves. So developmentally, their parents provided a space for them to not love themselves because of how they were being raised, how they were being talked to, how their parents were talking to one another, how their parents didn't care or care too much, like however you want to think of that. Like there's so much in that aspect of that developmental stage where we get taught something through experience without there being an after action aspect of it. And one thing that my dad really taught me was anytime that if he spanked me, he would have an after actions afterwards, of like, hey, this is why I did it, yada, yada, yada. So at least he did that with me, with all of his mistakes that he did. And so, talking with these guys, most guys don't ever have that experience, and the relationship with their father is still strained. Or they died and they never were able to reconcile, or they talk to one another, but they still don't really connect. And if they do, it's still like, I still want to tell my dad how much he hurt me when I was 5 years old. Like that one time he took the donut from me, and like that's all I really wanted. Like whatever that is, or the time he did that thing that really that spiraled my life into this behavior that I now have. So during the circles that I hold, that's exactly where we go is, and it happens organically. I provide a space and the guys go in the direction that they need to go to. But again, 9.5 times out of 10, it goes back to their dad specifically or their mom. Some people were raised as single mothers, and again, but there's the absence of the father, which was something very significant. The mother can provide a lot of things, most things that men need, but the father, like that aspect of it, of the masculine energy that you're being taught, when it's not done properly for a female or a male, it's a recipe for a lot of negligent behavior in adulthood. So that's really where we go to is understanding and forgiving what had happened to you, and actually growing from that. Like, okay, that happened to you. That happened for you. Good. What are you going to do about it? Right? Like now what? Now that you can see it for what it is, how are you going to experience life from now? Are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to fall in the same footsteps? Or what are you going to do with this? And so that's the work that we do. And that's really what I've been learning to do with myself is like, and that's why I say my dad is one of the biggest inspirations, even though with all of his mistakes, because he taught me how to be a brute man. And with that also gave me a lot of encouragement to be able to move forward in the life of toughness. And through that toughness, I was able to find a lot of love, just because of everything. My mom had a significant role to play with that as well, because she taught me the feminine energy of that too.
Yeah, it's really important to have the balance.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I guess one thing, just listening to you talk to you about your dad, though, there's the side that was kind of rough, and I don't want to call it trauma, but whatever that was, there was some of that stuff going on. Yeah. But at the same time, given his age and as he was getting older, and you were still, as you were coming into adulthood, it really seems like, he had kind of at least a level of awareness enough to be appreciative and acknowledge some of the things that he might not have done the way in which, now looking back, he had wanted to. And at the same time, to offer encouragement and share some of the wisdom that he picked up over the years. He didn't seem like he got defensive at the end of his life. And he was still holding like everything I did was okay. You're screwed up or whatever. It was like he was acknowledging, hey, we were in this together. I wish I would have done some things different. I love you. Yeah. And, which that in and of itself is a huge kind of thing for somebody to be able to receive, even if part of the thing isn't perfect, if toward the end, there's at least some open communication about what the reality was and accepting what was, and then thinking about how we can make things better. It sure creates an opportunity for a little bit greater level of healing, or at least it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's also like, I also like kind of what you were saying about, so I've been reading kind of lately about how just the idea that like we choose our parents, right? So if we are a spiritual being having a human experience, and we choose our parents, then we choose them because of the lessons that they're going to teach us, right? And so it's so interesting to hear you saying that about like your groups and stuff. And it's something that I come up with a lot of my clients as well, but it's like, how do we like look at ourselves as a whole human, and then like also look at ourselves with either like the damage or the trauma or the pain that we're carrying, and not merge the two together? Like a lot of the stuff that we carry can be from our parents, and it doesn't mean that it has to define us or like weigh us down or be this ball and chain forever. But it is that huge mirror of what do I need to work on, and what are the things that are triggering me. And I love that you said that about the medicine and how it's just this mirror that goes up, because it's like another world. And like, once you're in that mindset, there are other people there, but at the same time, like, I think for me, like the big switch with medicine or plant medicine was when it stopped being from like me, like looking at or being like, oh, like the psychedelic part, or like, what do I see? Or like such an external experience, but to what am I learning and thinking and hearing and feeling inside? And what is that transformation that's going on inside of me? And it's been such a tool for me, even thinking like, even when I'm not using plant medicine, but just like day to day, when I'm like okay, how am I looking for that external answer? How am I like trying to keep my eyes open and like have that external validation of like, well, like, Dad, what am I supposed to do? Dad, like, how do I do this? Dad, how do I heal? Like, you need to fix this, to like, what do I need to heal in this moment? And how can I give that healing aspect to myself? And like exactly what you were saying, like, I love that you saw like the fetus in the clouds, because every time I do anything, it always comes back to that womb space about healing that inner child and like coming back to, no matter what we've gone through and the things that we're carrying, we can always come back to that really pure essence. And I think like plant medicine has such an incredible way to remind us of that. And no matter how many times I've like listened to podcasts, read books, talked to my therapist, nothing else infuses my cells and my nervous system with that belief that like I am a pure, loving, divine spirit than connecting with Mother Earth that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. Well, I guess we've been going a bit. So, and I don't want to I really appreciate that work. And I guess you and I were talking this week. So I had my first kind of therapeutic dive into that world, earlier this late summer, fall.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And so, kind of guided and, very controlled and all that, and it really was an amazing experience and really helpful. And so kind of figuring out where to go next with that, but it was all really good. So I guess, and there is actually a lot of research, I think, starting to come out, particularly around PTSD and that healing mechanisms and all those kind of things around kind of the use of psychedelic drugs and these healing modalities. So I guess I'm glad we had an opportunity to kind of talk about that and lift that up. And again, encouragement for folks to make sure you're with people that know what they're doing and they're trained and can guide you and help you and all that kind of stuff and do it in the right way. But I think that's really good. And I guess I just wanted to tag, I think one of the most important shifts in concept for folks, at least personally for me, was shifting from the world that things happen to me and instead of things happening for me. And and then the meaning for that is like, okay, this is actually the universe, for me. Then what's my lesson? Where's my area of growth? What is it trying to teach me and all that kind of stuff? Because I feel like, we get stuck in patterns and then the universe keeps presenting us with the same damn lesson over and over.
Loops.
Yeah, until we figure the fucker out, and then we can move on, we get stuck. So, it's like, okay, so this has happened again. What energy am I projecting? What wound have I not done? So like, take a look, and so it's just like the whole process is to learn, grow, adapt, and to kind of connect, in all those kind of beautiful ways and that stuff. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Well, love that. So good luck with the PhD thing. Is any chance when we come to Las Vegas, there's going to be one of the men's circle groups? Not with that, but just the chat group or not? Is there anything going on this weekend?
No, not this weekend. It's New Year's. So not. But I can definitely let you know of any that happen.
Yeah, I might shoot up for one. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So I'd love to, because when I was working the prisons, I did men's groups at the maximum security prisons for like years. Talking about, it was all about and it was connected to their crimes. So the maximum security prison, the guys were in there, we had lifers and the whole thing, but it was, going back from the crimes they'd committed and then a lot of forgiveness work, trying to let go of that and then making amends to the families and people they'd hurt and then where they're going to go from there and all that kind of stuff. But all of it, a lot of the same kind of overlapping stuff. So
if I can just add just a little tiny bit to that is really one thing that these substances, these plants, these spirits have like really taught me was responsibility, like taking responsibility. I've sat down with my kid, my 15-year-old, a couple of times after these experiences and apologized for something that I've done, without any excuses. It's like, hey, that one time you weren't alive yet, but you were alive in your mom's belly, and this is what I did, and this might have had something to do with your development. So taking responsibility. Another thing, Brazil is actually taking inmates currently in the prison system and having psychedelic ayahuasca ceremonies with them while in prison. So there's potential for anybody at any level where they're at to be able to heal from these experiences. I think they're incredible tools.
Yeah. It's cool that you said the responsibility part too, because I think when you're in like a session or, when you have had like your heart kind of pulled open in that way, and it's literally like like if you think of our rib cage that protects us, it's like you're prying this cage open, and then finally you're like, oh, right. So just how I feel about it. But when you're in those, you realize,
which for a lot of people is scary as shit.
It is scary. I mean, even back bends are scary. Like it is super scary. Like even in a yoga class, when we do back bends, you have to go so slow because exposing that heart space, like another reason why people literally sit so hunched over, like one, we get a little bit lazy, but it's to protect our heart space because there's so much stuff coming at us all the time. And so, but like when you're in those spaces, you realize how absolutely sensitive you are. And I always just love coming back to the ripple effect because it's like the tiniest thing can have the hugest impact on you or the people around you. And so, you know, nothing is ever too big or nothing's ever too small to really honor and like shed some light on or to come back. And I think it's such a, like, there's not just this like one solution to healing, you know, and I think plant medicine is definitely like you skip light years when you start to work with it. But I just want to say like, there's always time to go back and apologize or have a conversation about it, you know, and it's always worth it. I find that it's always worth it. And like, sometimes it's painful, like opening that cage up again, or even for the other person. But if both parties are willing and able, like it means so much to kind of heal and like smooth it out as much as you can.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Go ahead, Emmy.
I have one more question. So when you're doing these circles, are you mostly working with the Kona or what are you guys doing?
No, we do a couple of different other things. It's tricky. I'm currently also, I didn't add this in the bio, but I'm working with a advocacy group here in the state for it's called Decriminalize Nature, and we're looking at ways to be able to decriminalize a lot of the substances that we use for healing factors. And I think there's an understanding, but there's also a fear. So, you know, a lot of the substances that I use, that I'm learning about is there's still the legality aspect that we have to be very, very careful with. So it's that, you know, it's like, that's another, that just for especially for my family, you know, my wife is really nervous anytime I do anything like this, because I'm always putting myself at risk for trying to help people through an experience that is just completely life transforming. So, you know, I have to be very careful with all of that, and I'm learning and I'm doing the work. So that's another obstacle of like, okay, here's this thing that you really want, but there's this huge wall right here. What are you going to do about it? Well, we got to change the law. All right, let's go.
Write some bills,
change
man.
the law. That's right, exactly. So don't let anything be an obstacle. It's the obstacles are like Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle is the way. You know, that's the law's there. Okay, go change the law. Go talk to politicians. Go do whatever it is that you got to do to do what it is that you love to do. So that's what we got to do. You know, some people quit because there's a little bit of work involved, and you know, honestly, nowadays I don't really like the politics anymore. I think that it's very, very divisive. So I don't really try to get involved, but that's what I got to do, and that's what we're doing. So, you know, it's an obstacle, but are you gonna do what you love because you got there, or are you just gonna dream about it all your life? So.
Well, if there's ever a MVP trip down to Peru, I would like to assist.
Ooh, beyond. We'll guide it up. Well, it's really true. And in that realm, you know, it's honestly, sometimes the more resistance you get, the more you realize that you're in the right place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, so it's like, there's a lot going on here and I'm getting a lot of kickback. So I'm either way, 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 way off, or, you know, I'm dead on. And it seems like more often than not, you're on the mark. So, well, let's, we got to land this here a little bit. So you talked to us about your own healing journey that opened you up. I'm just curious though, do you have any other kind of daily practices that you find that really ground you? So either mindfulness or meditation or breath work or yoga or working out, or like, what's your day look like that helps keep Bruno grounded and got his mind right?
All of the above. I try to do all of the above, meditation at night, in the morning, I work out. My wife got a Peloton, so if I can't go to the gym, I hop on the cycle and I get my ass rolling. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu. Is one of the biggest things that I do is jiu-jitsu. You know, and MVPs at Extreme Couture, and you know, I'm biased, but I think it's one of the greatest gyms in the world, because that's where a lot of my friends are at too. So we train together, and we apply what's going on up here on the mats, the obstacles. How are we behaving in real life, and how are they showing up on the mats? So jiu-jitsu is a big factor of mine, but the biggest thing, my biggest practice, I would say, is the time that I spend with my kids. I think that's every day. I'm always looking. Okay, I'm on my phone. Am I spending time with my kids? My 3-year-old is this really huge ball of energy, and she's so fun to be around. She's got a little afro, and she's like, I mean, she's the funnest thing in the world. And my 15-year-old, now we can have really deep conversations, and she's kind of getting into like a spiritual aspect of things too. And we spend time together, and like spending time with my wife. My wife is a trauma nurse, so helping her come home sometimes is very, very, very difficult. But you know, like those experiences of being with the people that matter most in my life is the biggest practice that I have, is putting your fucking phone down, spending time with the people that you love, even if it's like, you know, whatever it is, you know, like my kid doesn't really do toys. She has a ton of toys, but she just uses them to like, we have everything in boxes. She just picks up the box, dumps it, and walks away. She loves being with the person that's in front of her. It's like she doesn't care about toys. She loves being played with, you know. So I try to do that as much as I can. You know, like we learn songs together, whatever it is. So that's my biggest practice, is the experience of my life with the people that I love.
Well said. Okay. So a whole bunch of the other things that we've talked about that take care of things. So getting good sleep, trying to eat right, work out, and a little bit of yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, and all of that. So, and then really connecting with the people in your life and being intentional about that, which really is kind of things that really grounds us. So let's maybe leapfrog from there. So we'd like to get into your MVP story.
Let's talk about MVP.
Yeah, because we, you know, merging vets and players, and all of our audience knows about that because we've had a bunch of vets on and all that. So tell us in this story of your PhD and graduate school and being in Las Vegas, because I can't remember when the Las Vegas Huddle started, but give us that history, because I think you were at one of the first meetings or the first meeting. But
yes,
how did you get pulled into MVP? And then tell us about your MVP journey and why does it matter?
Oh, wow. Why does it matter? So I'll tell the story, and I think people will kind of understand why it matters so much. So Denver called me out the blue when MVP was about to open here in Las Vegas. And he got my number from somebody that he knew from the LA chapter that knew me. And they were like, hey, Bruno, there's a lot of work with vets out there, and we're trying to get vets into MVP, yada, yada, right? So he gives me a call. At first, I was like, I don't understand the concept of athletes with combat veterans. We're so different. Like, these people make so much money. Like, why are we even in the same room type of, you know, again, the dorky mentality. And so first session that I had, very first MVP session in Las Vegas, January 2017, we have Ryan Leaf, Randy Couture, a couple other athletes there, Nate Boyer, and we worked out. I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, like this is pretty cool. Like I saw Randy on TV fighting when I was in the Marines. Like, this is fucking awesome, right? But then the first huddle, like, Ryan Leaf opens up about his transition. And at that point, like, okay, I get it. Now I understand the importance of MVP and why this program is very, very important. Not only is it important because it helps people transition, but also it helps connect people. Again, I go back to that connection, right? It's like, okay, here's these two groups that are so different, but are we really different? We have a lot of commonality within those differences, and now we're going to do something together, work out, and then do something together again, the huddle of a peer-to-peer group where we're, having these shared moments of like vocalizing what's going on with us in a tribal manner where we're like really connecting, and that's really what happens is I share something and it connects with somebody else, and then we become a tribe. Now we're connected. And MVP in Las Vegas here, like, we're fortunate because we live in a valley, so Vegas is large, but it's very small, right? It's a small town. It's not like in other places where LA and then you have Orange County, and it just keeps on going. Here, we're a little bit more isolated, kind of, right? So we all hang out together. A lot of the MVP people hang out together, and so that's really what we've been able to create. So the first time I came to MVP was at that. That really woke me up as far as understanding that vets need to be exposed to other groups of people, because we have, like, there's that old saying, nobody can understand me. Like, my therapist is not a combat veteran. They can't understand me. It's like, whoa there, hero. Like, leave that mentality behind. Like, allow yourself to be connected to other people different than you. So that really exposed that to me. And then, just continuing to show up to MVP, helping. The first time that we showed up, it was just like, there's just this experiment. We didn't really know what was going on. And I was just a member, but I had this degree in social work. So I had an understanding of group therapy and all of these other things. So I helped Isaac Noel. It was really established the chapter. I got a lot of student veterans to go to MVP, and just, other veterans in the community, because I've done so much work with them. So really got a lot of people to be able to start getting into the session. And, pandemic happened, got a little disconnected. I was just focusing on at home. Again, my wife's a trauma nurse. Pandemic happened. Like, it was a little bit different for us, in this home. But it really brought us together. And so a position opened up at MVP here in Las Vegas, and I was like, dude, I love the people there. I love the mission. I love the vision. So I'm going to apply. And Susie at the time was the executive director, and her and I go back from 2013. I did a retreat with Save a Warrior. She was the clinical director. I was the second cohort for that program. And that's how we got connected. And again, we got connected at MVP, and she's like, yeah, let's hire this guy. And now I find myself here doing MVP stuff with some really badass people in a really cool ass gym.
Well, that's pretty cool. What days of the week are your huddles? When do you get, you guys go once a week? Fridays. Yeah, Fridays. So we're having one. Are you having one this week?
No, we're not having one this week because it's New Year's. We've learned that during these holidays, people need it, but at the same time, also people want to go out and have their fun. So if we do have one, like, very few people will show up. So we decided not to have one. We had one last week, but this week I decided that we're gonna skip it and then start again next week.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. And I think you've really hit on it. We've talked a lot about on this show how MVP does it through the connections. The peer-to-peer stuff, I think, is super important, that they're not being talked to, that somebody's being vulnerable. And I think the vulnerability that you experience in the huddle about other people sharing that story, and it opens other people up to being able to be vulnerable, which is part of that, I think, the opening to self-love, really. Because if you can share that with others, then you can start to honestly look at really where you're at and what's going on with you. So that'll story. And I think what you really hit on it too, is getting another perspective. So when you hear from a professional athlete or you hear from a vet and it's different than your world, sometimes we can't see very clearly, because it's like if you're looking down the sight of a gun, right? All you see is what's at the end of the barrel. And if you don't step back and look around, you can't see everything on your left and your right. And if you can open up your perspective a little bit, I think sometimes it helps you kind of gain that perspective about where you're at in your life, what's going on, and see things a little bit more clearly. And I've always found it personally really helpful to have some other people along on that journey. So I think that's pretty cool. So good. Well, we got a very strong Vegas huddle, so that's great. We'll have to try to get back up there and catch one of your men's circles, and then we'll have to get a huddle in. So that would be really, really good. So, okay, then All right. So, Emmy, anything else you want to wrap up as we kind of wind down? Okay, we're good. Okay. So I know we're sending some guys and or women, I don't know exactly who, to the Niners-Raiders game this Sunday. I'm guessing everybody that we send is going to be wearing a Raider jersey. So that's okay. That's how it works when we're on the road like that. So anyway, we're proud to do that. So we're really excited about that opportunity. So we just want to check in with you. So have you, you kind of good for a little bit? Do you have some big plan out in the future? Is there a next step for you beyond kind of what you're currently doing? You're going to finish the PhD, kind of open up and continue to work with veterans and others around kind of the men's circles and such, and connected. Is there another big horizon for you that you got planned?
I used to have like 5, 6 different, irons in the fire. And I've learned that I got to focus on the thing that I love the most, my passion, my drive and all of that. And really understanding like, a lot of people struggle with purpose and all of that. And that's fine. And I think my purpose, what I believe my purpose to be is to continue this path that I'm on and providing these experiences for people. So focusing on that, I finished the program. Our last trip is in Gabon, Africa, where we're going to be with the Bwiti tribe. And that's a pilgrimage and an initiation with them. Graduate, and then I have to apply for the PhD, which is associated with the program. Do that, and then really the goal that I have, the vision that I'm working on is being able to create a place here somewhere in the mountains, not in Vegas, but maybe half an hour, 45 minutes away in nature, where we can have these retreats for not just men, but groups of people that want to experience this modality of healing or exploration, self-exploration, because sometimes you've done a lot of healing and you're good, but it's self-exploration of understanding who you are as well is really important, the spiritual aspect. So that's the goal is getting the law out of the way, so I can freely be able to do this. And then, I'm getting the training to be able to safely do it, and the experience to be able to give to other people in a really cool way. Because one thing is just taking a handful of whatever and then just having a good experience in your living room versus doing it in a place where the space is created where it's like, completely different. And so, that's the goal is being able to create something that people don't know who it belongs to, but will always remember that's the place where they had a transformational experience.
And so I just want to check, if you get a PhD in shamanic healing, do you have to get a special tattoo or anything, or like a necklace, or do you have to get a piercing?
Like right here, right?
Yeah,
just like Mike Tyson.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, Hidden Pearls is called Hidden Pearls because we trying to be out there trying to reveal these little secrets out in the world, which you are one of them. So we're grateful for that, as MVP was. So thank you for sharing. I'm just wondering, we like to close out just talking a little bit about things that make people hopeful. So just wondering in all of this, and this has been a really hopeful conversation so already. So, but is there anything else that kind of really, is a log on the fire that keeps you burning, that you're really inspired by, or that has given you hope as you look to the future?
Yeah, my children, my kid, the oldest one, she's 15, and she's already talking about boys and all this other stuff. And like, to me, it's just, I see her future, and it's just so exciting for me, to be able to be her dad. And then this little other one that's probably going to be the troublemaker in the classroom. It's just being able to, and again, for me, I had one experience in psychedelics that I got. It was a hard one because like I don't have any sons, and so that was a hard pill to swallow, because I want to raise a son to be a warrior, this, that, the other. And then like soon after, I had the realization, like, hey, you dummy, you're raising women that are going to raise men, and they're more important to development than you are at some point. So you have to be able to raise good women, so they can raise the next set of warriors. Hopefully we don't need any more, but we're humans. So we need somebody to either go on a spaceship to Mars or whatever the hell we're doing, but we need somebody with courage and who better to be able to raise them than the people that are most important in man's life, and that's the women. We have to protect that. So
well, and if we watch the last Avatar movie, I never remember her name, Sully's wife, but boy, when she gets on that troop loader, she kicks the shit out of a shit ton of folks. So I mean, she's pretty wicked with that bow and arrow. But anyway, okay, all right, Emmy, you got a hope thing for us you want to share, or are you good?
Plant medicine gives me hope, and it just reminds me that I think we're like always trying to like find and seek and create and like, we hype all I don't know. I feel like we just create all these situations in our head where it's like, you have to like mold and like be this perfect thing when there's a plant outside that's going to help you come back to your true essence. And, I think, yes, there are a lot of laws around it right now. And I think that I'm very grateful there are people like you who are doing the legal side of it and working on those laws. But I also think it's, I would just say, ask questions before you get scared of things and trust your intuition, because if you're in a situation where it doesn't feel good and it's not for you, don't do it. But there's a lot of other people out there who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of love and a lot of experience and a lot of healing to offer with these different medicines. So I would just say, be courageous, and it's a fun journey.
100%.
Cool. Thank you, Emma. So this whole notion of self-discovery, and I guess I'm just hopeful to, this period between Thanksgiving and the New Year, but particularly between Christmas this week, it's, things kind of slow down, and here we are making you work. So thank you. But it's always a kind of a period where you're kind of like, I always think of the bear going in the cave a little bit and kind of looking around. Yeah. And just like, so this is a really reflective time for me, just because I try to make it that way. And so just, where am I at? What am I doing? How's it going? How did I do this last year? All that kind of stuff. And, trying to do so without judgment, but just some level of awareness and just kind of accepting where I'm at and what I've done and not done. And so just encourage folks to, as you enter the new year, I find hope in less judgment and more grace and a lot of forgiveness. And I think on the journey to self-love. So maybe we'll use that as one of the bricks in the foundation as we move forward on this shamanic healing journey. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Then we make a donation every week and the MVP vet gets to pick the charity. I'm going to guess I know where you'd like the money to go, but do you have a charity in mind you'd like us to donate to?
Yeah. So I'm really torn because MVP is obviously my thing, but also the work that I do with this group, this program I'm in, what they do is they form relationships with these tribal communities, and like many times they're looking for, they don't have any water, and so having to help them create a well and dig a well and all of that, it just takes fun. So I'm torn between choose an MVP because I know my boss is going to be listening to this, and if I don't pick MVP, she's gonna be like, Bruno, what the fuck, man? Exactly, it's coming out of your paycheck. But also understanding that there's people outside of the U.S. that also need assistance and help, and that goes a long way too. So.
What's your do you have a water group? Because we support Water Boys already, Chris Long Foundation. Yeah. And the Water Boys, they're out there doing a lot of that kind of stuff. But do you have a group that you particularly support for clean water for folks?
Yeah. So the program that I'm in, they have this relationship with the tribe called the Huirarica, which is in Mexico. They're the people that have they call the peyote. Peyote. I forget what they call them, but they're the ones that have been practicing peyote for a really long time. And the desert is just dry, and a lot of these people, the wells, they don't have any water anymore, so they have to dig wells, and so that's the group that I'm in. They're helping with that aspect of it. So it's through a nonprofit, which is the school that I'm in, and then they provide funding for these, because it's really important for them to be able to not only help where we're at, but also to encourage other people to experience these healing modalities through peyote and these pilgrimages. And with that, people need running water and stuff like that. So,
you email me what you want to do. So we've
got it.
We've coined a fair amount this year to MVP. So if you want to do something outside the box, and a couple of people have, so I wouldn't feel too bad about that. So it's all right. Tell Nate to cut a big check. So he was doing a big, he did that matching gift thing. So we hit him up during that. But anyway, so, all right, you shoot me a note. We'll take care of that. That'll be great. Perfect. And then we get in on Friday, and we'll, if we get a chance to have a cup of coffee or something, that'd be great. I'll let you know, and whatever works, it can work out. So, all right, Emmy, any final words, thoughts, wisdom, insights?
No, I just thank you. It'll be fun to, see this journey that you're going on. And if there's any way that we can assist, and just let us know.
Yeah, we're always good
for very much.
For more reasons to come to Vegas. So that would be great. So, all right, Bruno, we'll check in with you this weekend, but I really just want to say thank you so much for just sharing your journey and the wisdom that you've been picking up and putting together along the way, and really excited about your future. And that honestly is a really, really hopeful story. So, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with a whole lot of folks. So thank you very much. So you take care and give the family our best, and maybe shoot us a picture of you and the kids and that gorgeous wife of yours, who you're not so mad at her for tricking you into having a kid. I don't think. It sounds like you got over it. So that's pretty good. All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah. Well, all right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. Such a powerful and important episode. Very grateful for Bruno for being on and for everything that he does. Obviously, if you guys can't tell, I'm pretty into plant medicine, and I think there's a lot of healing that can be done. And gratefully, amazingly, that there's a lot of legal ways that you can do it now. And so one of my teachers always taught me that the way that we greet the medicine is the way that the medicine is going to greet us. And so if you go into it like being this is just, if you're interested, I would just offer you this wisdom. But, if you go into it where this is going to be a party, or you're kind of scared of it, or you haven't really figured out what this is, or maybe what you're looking for, you might get that kind of experience in return. But if you are very clear with your intention and you incorporate a breathwork practice, and you, like we were saying, have the music and the mood, it can be an incredibly healing experience. And what Bruno was saying about having a space to do it in that is really sacred. Sacred space is sacred space. And there is nothing else about that. I can't even begin to talk about how important that is. So if that is a journey that you were curious about, there is a ton of research out there. There is a ton of different practitioners. Like we were saying, you are one Google search away from finding something that could really, really heal you and change you, and maybe change the world. So don't be afraid of that. If you want to get involved with our show, you can follow us on all of our social networks. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a little bit on TikTok, and all of our shows are on YouTube. So it really helps us if you just share our message. So maybe even reposting something, or just sharing a link if you know a veteran who could use this episode. We highly encourage you to share it with them. It's free for them to join MVP and just have a community. And what really helps us to spread our message is if you go on to YouTube and subscribe, but also if you go on to Apple Podcasts and subscribe and leave us a review, 5 stars, please. But actually maybe give us a comment, tell us what you think of the show. It just helps us to get our message out and connect with more people. So either way, from our family to yours, this has been one hell of a year, 2022. We are so incredibly grateful. And we just want to say thank you for showing up, for supporting, and for just being the best fans and community ever. So we love you. Go Niners, and we'll see you in 2023.